to Life one-day session, and I want to just start right here and just make sure, first of all, my mic is working. Uh, if you wouldn't mind, in the chat area, I'm joining you from New Jersey. If you could put where you are joining us from, what state you're joining us from, just put it into the chat section. Okay, I see a couple. So my mic is working. That's a good part. All right, so we have, let's see, Florida, Arizona, Sacramento. Okay, so welcome all of you, New York, Washington, D.C., Philippines, hi, Grace, West Virginia, Idaho Falls, Chicago, California, again, Missouri. Okay, so welcome everyone here to this One Day Grief to Life session. Now, the area that you put your where you're joining us from, that's the chat section. And during the session, you are free and welcome to share anything in the chat section. If there's anything that I share that you may have experienced or that you have tried before, you can definitely put it in the chat. That space is for you. It's one of the ways that we can communicate through that chat section. So I'll periodically look at the chat section and may be able to respond on the spot, as this is a live session. Now, at the end of the session, we will answer any questions that you have. And that is going to be in the question mark section. So there's another section that you should see a question mark. I see some people already putting in some chats and some questions in there. But you can reserve that for questions. All right, so you can put questions there. I'll answer that at the end of the session. Like I see Louise putting there a question to start us off with. So we'll get to that in a second. But how much you are here, and this is no one has paid anything to be on here today. So that's how much. But thank you for being here, all of you. Today's session, we're going to be probably about an hour and 15 minutes, somewhere around there. That's usually what I aim for, hour and 15. However, at the end of the session, we are going to answer any questions that you have. Now, those questions sometimes go on for a little bit, lengthy afterwards, but I have time to answer any questions that you guys may have on grief, anything I may share today as well. And you just put that into the question area. So I'll go through all the questions at the end. Okay, so also at the end of the session, I want to give you one of the tools that we actually use I want to give you some information today. I want to teach some things that can help through grief, and also give you some of the tools that we use as well so that you can actually get started. So today I want to really prepare you to take some steps forward in your grief. But we're just starting here right now. Again, welcome everyone. I'm in the state of New Jersey, and we see a lot of people from all around. One more thing I'm gonna ask you to do, if you are here for the very first time, just please put a 1 in the chat section. Put a 1 in the chat section if you're here for the very first time. Okay, welcome. Okay, all right, so I see a couple of you here for the first time. Welcome. All right, and some of you here, Israel, I see you here for a couple of times. You've been here for quite a few times with us, but thank you. Thank you for coming back, for those who've been back again. And I want to give everyone even like clear next steps of what you want to do after today's session. All right, excellent. So welcome, everyone is here. We're going to begin. And before I get started, really, I want to ask you, what has been the hardest part of your grief that really no one understands? I'd like to hear some of your responses or answers for that. Now, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to put it as a poll, so you can actually answer the question in the poll, and you actually see it already. So what has been the hardest part of your grief? You see it has popped up. And if you could just answer in the poll, if none of these answers quite fit you, you can definitely put into chat area as well. And as you answer these questions, it kind of will allow me to even tailor some of the discussion to suit some of what you experience as well. So I see a lot of you already have jumped to the emotional pain. And I would agree. I think that there's so many aspects of grief that have been hard. I would say for myself, it was really the emotional up and down, and not to know exactly what to expect. And sometimes each day could bring, even not just each day, but each moment by moment could bring a little bit different experience of grief. All right. So I see a lot of you are putting in that answer as well. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So we're going to talk today about how do you move forward while a part of you is missing. All right. This is how I titled this, because we really want to help people to find ways to live again and move forward in life. And so often I term it like this, that we can get stuck. And I'll explain this a little bit more as we go further on. But how do we move forward while a part of us is missing? And even before I go ahead, I want to make sure that you understand that as I say moving forward, it doesn't mean that we want to forget about our loved ones. Okay, not in any way, shape, or form. I don't want to forget about the people that have made such a great impact in my life. Yet I still want to find ways to live and still want to live again or live my life. So even as we're here, I'm not. It's not about forgetting about your loved ones. We want to find ways that through life and living, we can even still honor our loved ones in a sense as well. So for those of you here for the first time, and those of you who've been here before, you've heard me do this. And if you want to participate again, you certainly can. In the chat area, if you would just put the first name of your loved one, because again, while we're here, we are definitely still remembering the life, the impact, the love that we have for them. And in no way, shape, or form, what I share with you today is about forgetting about our loved ones. So I appreciate you guys putting out there and sharing their names with us, and in a sense, sharing their lives with us as well, too. So I see Jason, Devontae, Dave, Hunter, Tommy, Ray, Stacy, Marie, Roman, Michaela, Chanel, Trishawn. We honor all of their lives. We honor the impact, the love that we have for them. Trishawn, Shirley, Kathleen, Jean, Fred, Richard, Holly, Larry, Sophia, Terry, Mark, Christopher, Lamarcus, Nehemiah, Oeni, um, Voss, Greg, Cheryl, Billy, Kenny, Bradley, Shirley, Tarika, Thomas. Again, I'm speaking the names because this is definitely this space that we're on right now. We are not about forgetting about our loved ones. We love them. That's even part of why we grieve the way we grieve, and we definitely still honor their life and their memory and the impact that they had to each and every one of us. So I have Shirley, Tarika, Thomas, Lori, Sam, Cameron, Greg. Let's see, a couple of others there. Alex, Thomas, Tarika. All right, it's kind of jumping because a lot of people. So please put it into the chat area. The questions where you have the question mark, you can just put questions in that area because. All right, Lori, Sam, Cameron. I might have jumped up again. Heidi, Austin. All right, we got Austin. All right, so again, I hope I got everyone's name that's there, but we are here to share how do we find ways to move forward while a part of us is missing. You know, when we're grieving, it really is that great impact in our life is just no longer there. So how do we find those ways to move forward again in life? Now, before I teach you anything, I want to explain to you why this even really matters to me and my own grief experiences. And I've experienced grief for a number of different times. However, I'm going to share with you three of the impactful ones I will share today. Now, even before I get further into it, we're talking about grief, and grief is such a wide topic because primarily we think about it when a loved one has died. However, that's not the only time that we may find ourselves grieving. And so many people are grieving, even I would say today, and they just don't realize that this is a area of grief. So, for instance, we've had people in this program that have went through divorce, and that's an area of grief as well. Even grieving within ourselves. Now, I just wanted to say that first because primarily, as we're talking today, we're going to be talking about grief over the physical death, loss of a loved one in that sense. And some of the things that we share today actually can help anyone that is grieving for any variety of reasons. Okay, but primarily today, as I'm talking, is going to be about the loss or the death of a loved one. So now, why this matters to me, I'm going to share with you three times of loss in my life. And it first started with my mom. And you see, I put her name on here as well, too. Her name is Carmen Stewart. So just like I had you guys share names, um, her name is Carmen Stewart. And this is in the year 2000. And this was the very first time that I had experienced the loss of someone, so close to me as my mother. And I didn't go into it knowing what was going to happen. However, as I put on the screen, as you see, what I experienced with my mom's passing was I experienced some anger. Now, my anger was, I think it was unique in a sense, because I've heard other people be angry, but I was angry at my mom. And in my mind, she allowed herself to get sick and to die and to leave me. And every time I say it afterwards, I always feel a little funny saying it, because I know it doesn't make like logical sense as I share it and as I speak about it afterwards. Was this is honestly what I was feeling and what I felt. And even though it was in 2000, I saw how it has carried through even throughout my years later, and how I interact with other people, and how sometimes when other loved ones may get sick, and I can kind of fall back in that same thing of getting upset with them because they've allowed themselves. And this really started with my mom. So I went through anger with my mom dying and again leaving me. And as a result of my mom, though, I learned a couple of lessons. And even as I share these three experiences, I'm going to share some lessons with you that these are my lessons. However, some of these you can take and apply them for yourself as well, too, as I've seen many others have learned some of these similar lessons. But with my mom's passing and even everything I experienced at that point, it actually led me down a path where we started a family business. We have one there called Honor You. And we've helped hundreds of thousands of other families since that have lost loved ones. And really, even today, me being here today and talking and sharing with people that are experiencing grief is a result of my first grief experience with my mom. So the lesson that I want to pull and highlight, one of them, is that something positive can result from my grief. Okay. Now, again, this is my lesson. I said this, but I've seen others that also have done some really positive things as a result of grief. And I encourage you to even think about and maybe take some of these lessons and think how these can apply to you as well. And I know for some, and probably for many, it might be hard to think right now, well, what positive can I really get through going through this devastation, this loss? And I'll just say it like this, just hang tight a little bit longer. We'll share some more things. But again, I wouldn't even be here today if I hadn't gone through grief. And I wouldn't be helping other people through grief if I hadn't experienced that at first. And I've seen other people have done, started some works that have helped other people. And it was strictly a result of their grief. Actually, I think it was just last week, there was a woman that was on, and I think her son was he tragically died. And because of that, she started a program where she's helping other mothers that have lost children as well. And not just things like that, but so many other things as well can result from our grief. I'll share more as we go further. So that's the lesson I got my mom. Now, my second experience, I remember my mom was in 2000. My dad was in 2017. So this is 17 years later. And remember, I'm from New Jersey. I was born and raised in New York, and all of my life when my dad was here, he was living in New York. And it just so happens, as he got older, he need a little bit more help. So he came to live with us for a little bit. And it wasn't that we were expecting him to die at that point, but it ended up being the last 3 months of his life that he came and he stayed and he lived with us in New Jersey. So during that time, though, I went away and I was on a conference. So I wasn't around actually at the time he actually died. And I experienced, as you see on the screen, I experienced some regret because I wasn't there for my dad when he died. Now, my wife and my children were there, but I just physically wasn't there. So there's a lesson I want to share from this as well. And you might have figured out already, but in my mom, I experienced the anger. Now, my dad, I experienced some regret. So the lesson I would share just from this second time I'm sharing with you is that grief doesn't show up the same way every time. Okay? Grief doesn't show up the same way every time. I'm the same individual, yet now I'm sharing with you two different experiences of grief, and they were really two different ways they showed up with me. And I can say it's for a variety of reasons. You know, the relationship that we have with an individual is going to impact how we're going to grieve. Also, you know, the our season of life, you know, how we are, the different things that we are maybe involved in, different things we're going through at that time is going to also impact how we grieve. But it won't show up the same way every time. So even though we might have experienced it before, the next time we experience grief, it could actually be completely different. And because of that, you know, if we don't get some help with our grief, a lot of times what I've seen with people is that it kind of builds up and it builds up and it builds up and it's different. And the way it then gets expressed is a combination of all these different things that we may be dealing with because we didn't actually handle the grief or really deal with it on the earlier levels, I'll say. All right. So grief doesn't show up the same way every time. Now, one thing with my dad that I was able to do, and you see a little picture of me on the screen there, is I found a way to, I did a video journal, which I'll speak a little bit more about it later on, but journaling has proven to be a really effective and just a way that we can express ourselves and kind of gather our emotions in a way. And that was really helpful for me at that point. Again, I'll talk about that a little bit more. I want to get to the third one that I want to share with you. And again, these are why this matters to me and why I'm here today. So I had my mom, Carmen Stewart, I had my dad, Patrick Stewart. I don't think I said his name. And then I had my friend who's like my brother. His name is Christopher Aline. And this is in 2023. Now, this is, you got 23 years now. I'm already helping other people that have lost loved ones. I've lost my mom, my dad, other people as well too. Helped many others. And I thought that it didn't affect me when my friend actually died. I thought I was good. I thought I could handle it. However, as you see on here, I later suffered from some panic and anxiety attacks. All right. So I had never experienced that before in my life. And it was really a hard, challenging time for me with the panic anxiety attacks. So I'm going to share one lesson, but I actually want to share a couple lessons through this experience here. The panic and anxiety attacks didn't occur like right away. They actually occurred a couple of months afterwards. And that's one thing I'll share. It's not the main lesson, but just even just take mental note of this as well too, that sometimes grief doesn't show up right away. It may take some time for us to actually see the results of it. It's just some things that may be building up in us. And I'll speak more about this later on as well. When I started to suffer the panic anxiety attacks, my wife actually was able to help me. We sat down and she having to like think back to when did I start having any feelings or anything that resembled the panic anxiety attacks, and I traced it back, and it was like right during time of um, he was like through like hospice, and right around that time that I started to feel anything like that. So another quick lesson I'll share with you as well too is that sometimes some things we just don't see on our own. All right. I needed my wife to actually be able to show me some things or to point out some things. Sometimes other people see things for us, and it's helpful to have them available to, figure some things out. Okay. Because I really didn't see it. I just knew I was going through these panic attacks, never experienced it before, couldn't breathe. It was really, really bad. And it lasted for a couple of weeks. Now, with that, I want to share a little bit later on how I got to that. But for those of you, any of you who experience panic or anxiety attacks, whether through grief or any other time in life, breathing and learning breath work really helped me through that time. Okay. So with my friend Chris, I'm going to share with you one of the main lessons that I put for this is that grief happens to everybody. Okay. And what I mean by that is that, like, there's no one that masters grief. We all grieve. Everybody grieves. Um, I'll share more as we go further, but don't feel bad for grieving. Don't feel that it's a weakness or like something's wrong. Grief is something that everybody goes through. And honestly, as I share with you, the time that I thought that I was good, the time that I thought that I could handle this, I'm helping people, but I also was grieving my friend. Okay? So these are the three experiences I want to share. And overall, I would say that grief, it shows up different every time, but it always needs to be processed. It always needs to be, handled. Let me go into who I am so you have a little bit of information about me now, because I know I didn't introduce myself in the beginning. My name is Samuel Stewart. My wife is Karen Stewart, and she joins me and helps me in this whole Grief to Life coaching program. We've been married for over 30 years. We've been blessed with 9 children and 5 grandchildren. And you see a picture on the bottom of the screen with basically all of our children, I think 1 grandchild at that time, and some of our sons and daughters-in-law. And I'm a licensed minister, and I'm a Grief to Life coaching minister. And we've been helping families through grief and loss really for over like 26 years now. I'm the author of several books, including Grief to Life, Transforming Pain into Purposeful Growth. Now, I would say more important than all of that is not that I've learned about grief, but that I've lived through it as I've shared the experience. And I'm still living through grief. So you're not here by accident. I stated this before, by grieving, you're not weak. Sometimes we think that we're strong if we're not grieving. That's absolutely not true. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're merely in the process. And just by being here today and showing up, and for some of you, I know even it was challenging to come on and some stuff with the time and so forth, but for showing up, this is taking a step forward in your grief. I want to share with you some reasons why people may get stuck in grief, as I use that term, stuck in grief. And when I mean stuck, I want to set the right expectations for you. All right. When you're here with me for the hour and 15 minutes, we're going to be here and we're going to answer questions afterwards as well. It's not saying that you are going to be free from any grief or that it's everything's going to be great and fixed, so to say, if that's what you think. It's an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to learn some things and hopefully give you some tools that you can use to start taking a step forward. The reality is, when I say set the expectations, the reality is that we are going to grieve for the rest of our life. Okay? Grief is going to be with us for the rest of our life because you know what? We're going to miss our loved ones for the rest of our life. I still grieve my mom, my dad, my friend, and others. But when I say getting stuck, it's that as I still grieve them, it's not at the same way or at the same impact, or it doesn't affect how I'm able to think and to live and to conduct my life at the same way as it was before. So many people find themselves getting stuck at that same position in grief and not being able to move forward. And this is why I talk about being stuck. So I don't I want you guys to have the right expectations that you're not going to get over grief and just not grieve anymore. No, we're going to grieve. It's just not going to be at the same level and the same intensity. And for me, honestly, and what I want for all of you, even through grief, we can be more inspired to live and more motivated to live as well. All right. So these are some of the reasons why some people may get stuck in grief. And I have one here. First one is a lot of times we can be unsure of what to do now. Like, what are the next steps for me? What, where do I go from here? A lot of times we lose purpose of living because we're grieving. So that's what I talk about, unsure of what to do now. Also, there could be a disconnection from others. If any of you even experience this, disconnection from others, your other friends, loved ones, other families, put in the chat if you've experienced any of these. Unsure of what to do now, disconnection from others, where you just don't seem to relate to them, or they have, in a sense, you feel like they've separated themselves from you. Sometimes they give us some helpful advice. All right, thank you, Heidi and Nicole. Just even for honesty, this is important, okay? And sharing. Sometimes they give us some helpful advice that really isn't helpful for us, and I tend to think good of all the people that we have in our lives, that they really want the best for us, but they may say some things attempting to help us that really doesn't help us. For instance, isn't time to just move on, which I've heard that so many times from people. You want to move, but we don't want to move on. We don't want to leave our loved ones behind. We don't want to forget them. We want to be able to move forward, right? Not just move on and act like they weren't here. Or the other one I've heard is, you got to be strong. And how can we be strong when we can feel at our absolute weakest, literally? But they tell us these things. And again, I don't want to say that they're doing these things maliciously. I think they're doing it out of love because they want to see us better. But these words can be hurtful and also reasons why we stay stuck. Okay. And they can come from a variety of people that, different areas, friends, family, some for us, even our church family as well. And again, it's not that they're bad. It's just if you don't know how to help someone that's grieving, really, that you haven't been through it, experienced it, learned from it, it's very hard to help someone else or to relate, even in just a little bit. All right. So some of you had experienced this, I see. Jacqueline, thank you for sharing. All right, there's a lot of comments, and I'm trying to scan through really quickly, but thank you all for putting, I see some people are putting private messages to me, but if you can, you should just, it should be general. I think you're doing by mistake though. Yeah, so put general and just keep it in the chat section. Questions, you can put them in the question section. All right. Now, let me say this as well. Avoiding grief doesn't heal it. It only delays the healing. Avoiding grief doesn't heal it. It only delays our healing. And that's what so many people would do. They attempt to avoid it. They attempt to maybe even work past it, attempt to just carry on life and not have to deal with it. But it doesn't really heal the situation. It just delays us healing. Time passes, but unprocessed grief will stay. Actually, before that, there's another one I would have put on the screen as well. Something else that I've learned, it's right along the same lines, that a lot of times we attempt to put off pain, and I put it as future pain. Future pain is usually worse. When we attempt to put something off, then it will actually end up being worse. All right. So last one I had was time passes, but unprocessed grief will stay. Now, one warning, that grief doesn't stay in just one place. Grief doesn't just stay in one place. It spreads. And I have a couple of areas on here. It can spread into our relationships. You know, when we don't deal with our grief, it's not just staying right there and in that little spot. No, it'll start to affect our relationships that we have with other people. I've seen so many divorces that have occurred because of grief. Also, you know, families broken, and friendships as well because of grief. So this is how it spreads even in those areas. And also, as we think of grief usually as a, you know, emotional or something more on the mental side, it's not just mental. It actually can manifest or result in physical challenges that we have. So I have health challenges here as well. The stress, the thing about the stress that we have when we're grieving and how that can impact our entire health system. Lack of sleep, how that also can impact us in our physical health. I think someone was just sharing with me this week of even not going outside and now not being active anymore. And then it's impacting their health as well. So remember, grief doesn't stay in just one place. It spreads. And I put at the end that it just really impacts our overall life. All right, because then you could think about if you can't get sleep, or some people said they couldn't even go to work because they were grieving. You know, if they're not sleeping, can't go to work, but just some people just couldn't go back to work. And then that then even impacts us financially as well too. So really, grief doesn't just stay in one place. It will spread. So with that, how do we move forward? This is what I want to talk about today. And in Grief to Life, we have what's called the 4Ds framework. And this is just the path. And it's not that you have to understand it all. This is showing you the path. And I'll explain to you a little bit more. We have we call it your roadmap from pain to purpose. And there's 4Ds. I'll go into it later on. First D is determine, then decide, develop, and then deliver. So it's just a path. Again, you don't have to understand it all. Just know that these 4 paths can help us to move forward. Now, the formula that we use is faith plus tools plus community equal transformation. And in Grief to Life, this is really the core or the essential thing of what makes our program effective, what makes it work. First of all, it's a biblically based program. All right. So what we share is rooted and grounded. The principles that we're using are from the Bible, from the Word. And I say that just so everybody knows where it comes from. However, people from all walks of life have been in the program and have benefited from the program. So, like, you don't have to be a Christian, so to say, to be in the program and find benefit from it. However, I do make it clear that yes, we get the principles from the Bible. So faith plus tools, given the tools to be able to make this, to learn and also to make these steps forward, and then the community, and us coming together and sharing with each other. All these three, faith plus tools plus community, equal transformation. And I'm going to share more about the 4 steps, 4 Ds in a little bit. But I want to get into some other ways that we can get stuck in and how we can move past it. But before I do that, I want to give you an opportunity to share, like, what does healing look like for you? If you could say, you know what, I'm doing better in my grief. I want to take a second just for some of you, if you'd be willing to answer. What does doing better look like for you? Okay, so Shan says not possible. Jacqueline says not sure if it's possible. Okay. Jane says to not think of him all the time. Mark says to find purpose in daily activities. Okay, so these are great answers. I'm gonna get to a couple more. And if you're putting in the chat, just make sure you're putting in the bottom part. So don't reply back to someone else's thread, so to say. Just put it at the bottom so I'll be able to see it there. I see some people are. Okay, Lindy says more smiling. Michelle says, I got an emotional support dog. Being able to talk about the person without crying. Okay, all right, excellent. I'm sure I may have missed some of you there, but everything you said was great. I just want you guys to think about that. All right, have a thought of, what would it look like for you to be, quote unquote, I'll say just better. All right, now a couple of you, and my screen is a little jumping back and forth. A couple of you said, like Jacqueline said, not sure it's possible, not possible, to not think, okay, so I saw 2. I thought it was one more that said, like, that you don't see that there's a possibility. So hopefully, even as we share today and as we go a little bit further into it, then you start to see at least some form of hope or some pathway to what would you feel like is making progress for you. All right. Again, it's not about being healed. All right. For those of you, especially if anybody came on late, this is not a session or even a community or a group that we're going to say, you know what, you come here for 3 weeks and you're going to be healed of your grief. That's just not true. All right. I don't think anybody can actually promise that, because I believe, and what I've seen, we grieve. And we're going to grieve for as long as we're going to miss them, we're going to grieve them. However, it just doesn't have to impact us, again, in the same way throughout that time. All right. So thank you for your answers. Thank you for your honesty. All right. Even saying that you don't see a path just yet. But let's go ahead. Just a few more. And let's see if we can identify what areas may be keeping you stuck. And as we go through these, count how many may apply to you. All right. Now, one of the first things I'll say, and I'm going to go through 7 of them in the time we have remaining here. Doing nothing. This is some of the areas that keeps us stuck. Doing nothing. Thinking that it's going to go away on its own, or even just hoping that's going to go on its own without doing anything or without participating. There's a saying that we learned in school that time heals all wounds. So most of us learned when we was younger. Time heals all wounds. But that's just not the case that I found with grief. Time alone doesn't heal all wounds. It also takes effort. All right? Just letting time pass doesn't mean that we're going to get healing with our grief. It also takes effort. We have to participate. We have to show up. For instance, many people have signed up for today's session, but not everyone has come or even shown up. But I'm thankful that you guys are here and you've at least shown up to be on here and to maybe listen and see that there's a path forward. So time alone doesn't heal wounds. It also takes effort. And I'm an example of this as well too. Remember, I shared with you about my friend Chris that it didn't show up right away. It was a couple of months later on, and it then started to reveal itself as the panic or anxiety attacks. So by doing nothing, it doesn't mean it was getting better. Some things were just actually like building up to the point where it came out into that attack for me. There's a video here I want to show you, and hopefully you guys can see it okay. Sometimes it plays perfectly. Sometimes people have a hard time seeing it. So it's a 1-minute video, and then I'm going to come back and I'll share with you in case you don't see it. Okay, so did you guys actually hear that? All right, Ed didn't see it. Did anybody? Okay, so Keisha saw it. So some people say, like I said, it's kind of funny. Some people see it, some people don't. So Keisha saw it, Ed didn't see it. I see a couple other yeses in there as well. Okay, great. So I'll explain this to you really quickly. That was a man by the name of John Hanna, pastor, and he was explaining how his mother died, and every year, because he didn't do anything about it, he would just, as I said, dive back into grief right around Mother's Day. Now, in his case, then they started some kind of grief, I think it was counseling service at his church, which is grief life coaching is different than counseling. I'll explain that a little bit more as we go. But they had to do something. All right. So again, he is a perfect example that if we don't do anything about our grief, then we just stay in that same loop and that same pattern over and over and over again. Now, another thing I'll say is I shared with you before that everybody grieves. So we see here a pastor that is also admitting that he was grieving and stuck in that loop of grief. Pastors grieve. Even we see Jesus in the Bible grieved. And when we see Jesus in the Bible grieved, he grieved for a variety of reasons. Like I shared earlier, that we don't just grieve just only when someone has died, but he grieved when people had rejected him. He grieved, right? And it's actually one of the most talked about emotions that we see from Jesus. in the Bible. So don't feel bad for grieving. But if we do nothing about it, we're going to just stay in it, and oftentimes it'll actually even get worse. Now, there's a statement that we have on here, and I have it in quotes. This is one of the key statements we have in our program, and it says, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be okay. Remember, you're not weak. You're not broken. It's okay to not be okay. We've been devastated through this loss. So it's okay to be however we are experiencing grief at the point that we're experiencing it, okay? It's okay to not be okay. But the second part of that statement is that, but it's not okay to stay not okay. The full statement again, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay not okay. Now, what I mean by that is that there's several people I've spoke to now that said that they've experienced grief and loss like well over 20 years ago. And to them, they said it was just as if their loved one had just died. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. We shouldn't be in the same condition for years. And that's the point of I'm saying about being stuck. It's not okay to stay in that same not okay condition. But we totally give everyone permission. How we're grieving, it's okay to not be okay. Wherever you are right now is where you are right now. And there's nothing wrong with where you are right now. But we just don't want you to stay in that condition indefinitely. Let's go to number 2 of how we can get stuck in grief. And we say blame or rumination. Now, rumination is where we kind of go through that, what if this would have happened? Or what if they had taken better care of themselves? Or, what if the doctors had did this? Or what if such. And all this is a hypothetical thought pattern that we get caught into. And we're really looking for somewhere to point blame to. And the problem with this and why it keeps us stuck is that it traps our mind in an endless loop of pain, just going over and over and over again in our mind. And how many of you have experienced stuff like this as well too? Like, what if I shared this with my mom, like what if she had taken better care of herself, and it caused me to get into anger. Again, the problem with this is that it's trapping our mind in an endless loop of pain. So what we need to learn how to do, instead of being in that loop, is to redirect our thinking. Redirect our thinking to get out of that loop. Now, the Bible, and I'll just share a scripture with you really quickly from here, Philippians chapter 4. It says, whatsoever things are true, and then goes on to say, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, pure, lovely, of good report, praiseworthy, virtuous things. Think on these things. So it tells us the things that we should actually be thinking on, as opposed to that endless loop that we oftentimes find ourselves in through this rumination, which keeps us stuck in grief. All right, let me move further so we can stay on time with what we're doing. Now, the third one here is, for me, it's a big one because it's something that I kind of naturally have found myself doing whenever there was like hard times I went through in life or what have you. And that's isolation and loneliness. I think I remember seeing some of you on here as well, too, that said that you've also experienced some isolation, or you're going through isolation. Now, I want to explain to you why this is so. I put on here in red, the opposite response. And I'll just go straight to the scripture. From the very beginning, when Lord God created us in Genesis chapter 2, he said that it was not good for man to be alone. And this is not strictly just talking about a husband and wife and those type of intimate relationships. We really are supposed to be in community. We thrive when we're around other people, when we have community with us. So when we isolate ourselves, we're actually taking away the help that we can get from being around others. Okay. Like even here today, and I know like probably some of you may know others on here, but most of you are first time seeing anyone else that's in the group. But just by seeing other people in the chat that may be commenting, that may be speaking, that may be talking, you get a little sense of, you know what? I'm not by myself. I'm not the only one that's experiencing this. I'm not the only one that, you know, is feeling these feelings I'm feeling through grief. Even though yours may be unique and it may be personal. And I say the statement, grief is personal. It's a personal journey, but it doesn't have to be a lonely one. So even as we come together and see other people in this arena, it kind of just gives a little bit of help to know we're not alone. This is just a little bit of power of community. There's a statement that we have in our program that speaks to this. Is another one of our key statements, that grief shared is grief divided. Grief shared is grief divided. And what this means is that as we come together and even share in grief, it helps to divide or lessen the pain or the weight that we feel of grief on us individually. So us coming together collectively, even though, you know, all of us may be grieving, we're helping each other with the weight that we have been feeling. Grief shared is grief divided. Another example that I use with this is if we had to carry a table across from one side of the room to the other, we can maybe take it up ourselves and we can bring it over. Maybe it's a little bit of a struggle. But if we had 2 or 3 other people to carry each side of the table, sharing the weight of it, then it gets so much easier to carry that table. This is how grief shared is grief divided, is that we are helping to bear one another's burden, even though we're all grieving. And we see a very real example of this, like when we have the time of the funeral. Even though we are devastated, yes, there's a loss. We are devastated, we're mourning at the funeral. Yet when we actually have other people around us at the funeral, we don't realize that they're helping to carry some of the weight that we feel. Now, you know, a couple of days later, when we may have less people around us because maybe people go back home, and we don't have that big circle of people around us, then guess, you know, we feel the weight a lot more. It's the same principle. We're carrying more of it ourselves because we are not able to share it with other people in that sense. So this is the important part of even this community, that we come together in a community and we're able to help each other. Yes, you know, my wife and I, we can be here, we can share some information. I could speak, and hopefully some of the things that you hear is giving you some encouragement, some hope. But there's nothing like the community that we have together, because we all help each other. Okay, let me move on ahead. So actually, let me just reinforce what I'm saying to you. When we isolate ourselves, we are taking away the help that we have by being in community with other people. Okay, so isolation is actually the opposite response to what we should be doing when we're grieving. All right, now if you have questions about this, 'cause I know sometimes people have questions, especially about the isolation, definitely put in the question area. We're going to answer questions at the end of the session. All right, as many questions you have in there, we will stay to answer all of the questions. Now, number 4 we have is unhealthy substances. All right, and I put this here again as it's an opposite response, similar to the isolation, just in a little bit different way. Unhealthy substances, and we're just, you know, being real. Even, you know, people in church, outside church, what have you, may turn to alcohol or even to other unhealthy drugs, other unhealthy substances, or addictions, or other things they may turn to. But it is the opposite response to what we should be, or how we can actually get help. It masks the real problem. It doesn't fix it. It just may mask it, and numbing it doesn't really heal it. It only will delay us from healing. Okay? Numbing doesn't heal it. It only will delay our healing. Now, another thing I'll share with even like these unhealthy substances, Lord God has given us ability to heal in many circumstances and situations. For instance, if I was to cut my arm, scab's going to form eventually, and white blood cells going to come, and it's going to go through a healing process. That's how Lord God created us. That's why I have the scripture here. I will praise thee, Psalm 139. I will praise thee, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Lord God created us spectacularly, and very much so in the area of grief as well, and even other pains that we go through in life. He's put within us the ability to get some levels of healing. He didn't leave us, to handle it by ourselves. He actually put tools on the inside of us that can actually help to facilitate or bring forth healing. However, when we start to partake of these unhealthy substances like the alcohol and drugs, they actually impair our senses, and they take away a lot of the capabilities that we have to heal ourselves, that he has given us to heal ourselves. So this is why this can keep us stuck, because it's actually taking away some things that we can actually use to heal ourselves. And I'll just give one quick example, just for the sake of time. I won't go too much into it. Our senses is a great pathway, I'll put it like that can bring levels of healing to us. Our senses. All right. Some of us can see something like a beautiful scenery that helps to relax us, or some beautiful artwork, something like that, that can help to bring a level of peace to us. Not just sight, but hearing, smelling, tasting, and even touching. There's many different ways and that we could share, and I can't get into all today or right now, but our senses is a great way that the Lord has equipped us with the ability to get some relief, even as we're grieving. However, when we partake of the alcohol or drugs or something like that, they're taking away that healing from us and leaving us stuck in grief in that regards. Okay. All right. Let me move on to 5. Number 5, we have skeptical. This is another reason why we can be stuck in grief, because we are skeptical. Maybe don't know if this will work. Don't know if this is going to work for you. And as I've shared, so many people have, and I'll share some testimonials that we have at the end, have gotten the benefit from this. Many of you don't know me. You don't know who's this Grief to Life coach that is here talking to you. And why I come on even do these webinars is that you get to have a little bit of sense of who I am, Samuel Stewart, and then also my wife, who's going to be joining me in a little bit as well too, as we do the Q&As today. So you get to see that, this is not something that we learned in a book. This is something that we lived and that we have gone through and continue to go through. And our heart is to help people. And this is what the Lord has placed us here to do. And this is how he has called us to help people that are grieving. And this is our ministry. This is, and just side for a second, as I was looking even on Facebook, it must have been this week, I saw some, because I do a lot of posts in reference to grief. So they show you stuff for grief on there as well too. And I see someone's advertising that you can be a grief counselor, whatever it was. They were saying you could come to our school, you could be a grief such and such, you could earn, you know, $60,000 or $80,000 a year, whatever the amount was. And I'm just being real with you. Like, we don't do this for the money, right? Yes, it takes money to run the program and things like that, but that's not our motivation or our incentive to do it for money. And I think that, you know, I'm sure there are people that's out there to do it, but that's a dangerous place to be when you actually are motivated because of that. Because how can you really help people if that's the main driving force? We're here because the Lord has placed us here to help people. We're here because he's also put us in that position where we've grieved too, and we've had to learn through it. We've had to grow through it. We've had to move forward in life through it, and we continue to do it. All right. And I will never stand here and say that we've arrived and we don't grieve. I still grieve. I still tear up sometimes speak about my dad and my mom or my friend as well, and others. We still grieve, but the reality is we just don't grieve the same way as before. And that's the point of what we say about moving forward in life. All right. And we definitely can get inspired and motivated. Like, for instance, I love talking about my parents now and about my friend. I'm motivated to share their story because their life still matters. And as I share about them, their life still matters, not just for me, but you know what? Their life matters for you as well, too, because I'm sharing their story. And they're the reason why, you know, I've came into this space to do this. So I know I was talking about, you know, I just share this so you kind of get to know me a little bit more and why we're here and even our motivation for being here. Some people skeptical. I have on the screen because of, you know, it's a Bible program. It's a biblical program. Again, you don't have to be a Christian, so to say, to take part of the Grief to Life to get the benefits. There's been people who were Christians, people from other faiths, people that weren't religious at all. All right. They've come through the program and they've actually expressed how much has benefited them. Cost. I believe that was one of the person's first questions that we had that was in our question area as far as the cost. They asked how much. So, I mean, this is part of the answer to as well, too. So all of you are here, and I don't think any of you have paid anything to be on here at this point. And this is a ministry, okay? Grief to Life coaching is actually still a ministry sponsored by Lighthouse Ministries. So there's a cost to put on the camera. There's a cost to do the internet. There's a cost to do all that stuff. But people have donated towards it so that we can do this. So for you, there's no cost. However, and I'm going to say this, you know, just so you understand what it is, you can come through the program. I'm going to share with you at the end of it, you know, how you can be a part of the program. However, we do take donations. All right. And if it's something that you are able to, we would love for you to donate to help somebody else along as well. All right. So again, the motivation isn't about the money. The motivation is how many people can we help through the program. And then for those who can donate towards it, we definitely do take donations. That definitely donation can help us to reach more people in that regards. But for you to come through, for everyone that's on here, you want to be part of it, you don't have a cost to do that. Unlike, you know, other things, other programs may be there. Time, we attempt to make it as convenient as possible for everyone, as much as possible. I know some people we have in California here. We're on the East Coast. We have a dear friend, Grace, in the Philippines on here, and her time is off. We are definitely conscious and attempt to do things in a timely manner for these live sessions. But we also have groups like a Facebook group, and then we have a whole another back end that can provide other resources that you can do at your own time. Okay, so it's not just about the live sessions that we come on like now, because maybe not everyone can make the live session. I have people that already texted me and said they couldn't make it onto here because of the time. But we attempt to make different things available for different times for different people. All right, last thing I'll say is the group. Some people, they initially think that, okay, grief, they want some kind of one-on-one, and people ask me for the one-on-one. And can we talk to people one-on-one? Absolutely. But I prefer to bring it into the group because you know what? As I said before, me, I'm not the one that makes this group special. Yes, I have information. Yes, the Lord has given us this vision for this. We coordinate this, but the group and what we come together, what we share together, there's so much that I've learned from each and everyone that's been a part of this program as well. The question that's asked, the cross conversation that go on as well too. The group environment is really where there's that transformation. Remember that formula had faith plus tools plus community, that equals a transformation. So the group aspect is just another dimension or level of healing. So that's the way this program is run. All right. Um, I want to. So scripture I have on here is Hebrews 13, and it just talks about that some of us entertain angels unaware, and what I mean by that is I believe that the Lord provides people in our lives at the time that we need them, just at the right time. And sometimes we're just not aware that He has given us these people to help us. But that's exactly what He's done. He's placed them in our lives at the right time for when we need them. All right, let's go. We got two more. Sudden grief, number 6. We have fear. All right, this is another reason why people can get stuck in grief. Just unknown of what may be next. Some people are, they don't want to take a step forward. They don't want to move forward because they don't know what's next. What will life be like without them? What is my purpose without my loved one in my life anymore? Whether it's a spouse or a child or a parent, okay? Just fear. And fear will usually paralyze our progress. And one thing I've learned, a lot of times we're fearful of what we don't know. So a big part of what we do here is the learning aspect and teaching. Whether it's about, I mentioned briefly about journaling. I know I didn't go into too much today about breath work, things like that. Even about like artwork or other things. We talk about senses, like aromatherapy, essential oil, things like this. Once we start to learn about things, this actually helps to dispel fear. Because whether grief or outside of grief, a lot of times we are just fearful when we don't know how to do something. So one of my grandsons, I said I was thinking of him because I just wanted to bring a little bit of something I was going to share in this session today. And I don't know if his my son and daughter-in-law are watching, but my grandson, he's kind of just learning to walk, right? And I mean, he's not afraid of too much. I see him climbing all over the place, but he's just learning to walk. But I just imagine a child just learning to walk. They're a little fearful because they might fall, right? But then once they start to learn about it, they learn how to put one foot in front of the other. They learn how to balance, and then before you know it, they're just running all over the place. But it's because they just didn't know. They didn't learn what they needed to learn to be able to do it. Not just with walking, with other things in life. Same thing as we go through this program and different things we look to teach. Yes, there's a element of fear because you don't know yet, or we don't know certain things. But once we start to learn it, then we actually can dispel some of that fear. And remember in 2 Timothy, the Lord said, Bible says that we have not been given the spirit of fear. That's not from Him, but He's given us power, right? That's the strength, right? Even when I said before, when people tell us to be strong, we're like, how do we be strong? Guess what? We be strong in the Lord, His power. He's given us power, love to now even form communities, to form relationships, have this community that we have. And then the other one, we have a sound mind, which is like clear thinking, as opposed to what so oftentimes when we're grieving, we have that foggy, we can't even get our thoughts together. This is what the Lord has given to us: power, love, and a sound mind. Let me go to the last one. And this number 7 is giving up. And hopefully those of you who are here and have made it to this point, you have not given up. All right. And just think that this is going to last forever. I know we had a couple people not say it exactly like that before, but I definitely hope some of the things that you've heard has given you some sense of hope, that there's some hope. All right. We grieve right? And I said to you that we will grieve for the rest of our life, but it just shouldn't stay it should not stay the same way for the rest of our life. All right. So grief, it shouldn't last forever the same way. Maybe you already tried something and it didn't work. Grief to life coaching is different than counseling. It's different than therapy. And I'm not against counseling or therapy at all. I think some people need counseling and some people need therapy. Grief to life coaching it's just a different model. And it doesn't go against counseling or therapy. Some people have taken what they've learned through our program and said they asked us for permission. We gave them permission to take it back to their counselor and their therapist to use it with what they're learning in there to help them even further. Okay. So it's just a different model. Grief to life coaching. Our thing, our Facebook group, our community, it's really more about finding ways that we can live and move forward in life again. All right. It's not so much about yes, understanding of grief, but it's not focused on just understanding of grief or even little motivational sayings and things like that. No, it's more so about how can we learn the tools, right? Even learning through faith, and then also have the community that's going to help us all to move forward. Scripture, Psalms, I have on there that weeping may endure for the night, right? So it's a time to weep. There's a time that we grieve, but that's not forever. It says that joy comes in the morning, all right? So it's not supposed to be that we're weeping forever and ever. No, it endures for a night, but there is something that comes afterwards, which is joy. Okay, so I went through the 7, and I just want to ask you a quick question. Like, how many did you recognize? You don't have to answer me with this particular, all right? I just want you to think for yourself. How many of these did you recognize? If you have 1 or 2, then you can say you need some awareness, or you have some awareness, all right? If you have 3 to 4, then you may be, more stuck. If you have more than 5, then you need some support. Okay. I just put a poll into the area that, like how you answered the first one, for those of you on at the beginning. And the poll is, what would you most hope to gain from a grief support program? What would you most hope to gain from a grief support program? And I have a couple of answers that's on there, if you don't mind answering those. All right, so awareness is great, because even me sharing these things with you and why I spent a little bit more time with them, just so that you're aware of these different areas. But, awareness is kind of like just the first step. Awareness alone isn't the answer. You still need to process through it. So this is, and I'll go through this really quickly, our 4Ds framework and how it works of what we do. And we say it's your roadmap from pain to purpose. The 4Ds, the first D is what we say is to determine. All right. And determine is understanding where you are so that you can move forward. In order for any of us to take, all right, let's go to like a GPS, because many of us are familiar with the GPS. Actually, we were talking about it yesterday in the car when we were talking about the person who allowed us to do the first GPS. But for a GPS to work, you have to put in your destination. So that, even that you want to be at a place where some of you said that you want to be able to talk about your loved one without crying, or maybe those who said earlier that they don't necessarily see a way forward, but you just know that you don't want to be where you are. All right, you want to be someplace better. You just don't even know where that is. With a GPS, if you put in the destination, like I want to go to Disney World, it's great that you want to go to a better place, but the first thing that it has to know first is where you're starting from. So it has to know your starting location. And this is what the determined part is. It's helping us to see what is your starting point? Now, your starting point, my starting point is there's no wrong starting point. Wherever you are is where you are. All right. And it's perfectly fine where you are. I'm in New Jersey. I'm fine. My GPS can get me from New Jersey to Florida to go to Disney World. As long as I tell it that I'm in New Jersey and I'm good. If somebody is starting off and they're in Chicago, it's not Jersey, but it's fine. GPS knows where they are. It can get them from Chicago again to Disney World. So the determine part is just determining where is your starting point. And it could be wherever it is, it's fine. And we have tools. And actually, that's one thing I'm going to give you today. One of the first tools that we use for our this 4 stages. All right. So determine is to understand where you are so that you can take a step to move forward. Now, even just from biblically and thinking from the Bible, if you guys remember in Genesis chapter 3, when the Lord God, after Adam and Eve had sinned, and he calls out to them, and he says, "Where are you?" You know, and Lord God knows everything. So it wasn't that he didn't know where they were. He actually wanted them to recognize where they were, really not in his presence. Remember, they had hid themselves. So that's even where this determined part is starting off, to find out where are you starting from. So we give you tools to do that. After determine, then we get into the second D, which is to decide. And that is where we allow you to choose where you want to take a step forward in, what area. Okay, so now this is what we call group coaching. However, we also say that it is very much client led. And what that means is that we don't tell you what you should be doing in your grief. We don't tell you what steps, what that you should be going to Disney World. Maybe you don't want to go to Disney World. Maybe you want to go to Busch Gardens. We allow you to decide what is meaningful for you. All right. Just like I asked a question before, like, what does healing look like for you? And any answer that you give, that's your answer. And we just want you to make that decision because it's important for you. I don't want to go into all of it, but it's important for you to start even making that decision for yourself. Because so often, even with grief, we feel like hopeless and helpless. And I would say powerless as well, too, because this happened in our life and, we didn't choose for it to happen. So this portion right here, where we allow people to decide for themselves what is meaningful for them, it's important in a couple of different ways. All right. So this decide part is the second part of the D, where you decide for yourself what is meaningful and you go from there. All right. I'm just moving quickly because for time. The third D is the develop stage. Develop, and this is where we help you to learn and apply the tools that support your healing. So we're developing through the tools, learning about whether it's, we talked about before, journaling, whether it's about maybe affirmations, whether it's about artwork, things like that we've done. There's a lot of different sessions and things that we've done in the past before that we can introduce you to as well. So developing into the individual that can accomplish those things, that can take those steps forward. Because maybe right now you feel like you can't move forward. I think that's what some said before. You're not equipped. You don't have the knowledge. Maybe we have that fear because we don't know. But developing into the person that can take those steps forward. That's one part of develop. The second part of develop, I say, is developing even a strategy, a plan that is workable for you. All right. It's not about huge leaps and bounds. No, it's about small steps, but that are meaningful, that are in the right direction that you want to be heading in. All right. We don't push anybody to, do big things all at once. You take small steps. This is a journey, and we're here for the journey. All right. So developing a strategy for you to take those steps forward. And then lastly, we have is the deliver. And that's growing through community, consistency, and accountability. So delivering is really what this community is about. We come together, we share with each other, we encourage, we support. It's on live sessions. We do Zoom sessions too, and especially as we go forward, we would do more Zoom sessions. Then also in the Facebook group and other communities. So that's the deliver part. Growing through community, consistency, and accountability. Remember, faith plus tools plus community equal transformation. So now I'm at the end. All right. I'm going to answer questions in a few seconds, but really you have a decision to make. Each and every one of you that's on here today, you have a decision to make. You can stay where you are and nothing changes, or you can take a step forward. All right. And I hope that, yeah, as you're here, and for those of you who are still on, that you don't leave here the same as when you first came on. Okay. A lot of people have, like I said, even signed up for this and maybe not even showed up. I'm sure some people will come on today and maybe have came off already or what have you. But now that you're here and you have a decision I'm presenting to you, some of you may be watching this later on as well. This is the point that you make a decision. Am I going to continue on the course that I am and stay where I am and nothing changes? Or are you willing to take a step forward? Now, the step forward you have to take. All right. When we do coaching, like, we can encourage, but there's things that you have to embrace. Remember, there was one of the statements I had that time alone doesn't heal wounds. It also takes effort. So one of the first steps forward I want to encourage you with is what I told you I was going to give you from the very beginning. This is one of the tools that we use for the determine stage. All right. This is going to be an assessment questionnaire. I'm going to put it into the chat. Give me 1 second. I can put it into the chat right now. This is the assessment questionnaire. Actually, I think I could do it from up here. And hopefully you guys can download it. Oh, there you go. It should be there already. You should have the assessment questionnaire. I'll also put in the chat in this way as well, so you have it. It should be one of the handouts you could download from here. All right. In addition, I'm going to put into the chat right now. Okay. The 30 assessment questions. So this is the tool that you can use, which is the first step. And I just ask you if you're going to take it, download it, look at it, reflect on it. Okay. Just like I said with other parts of the program, it's not you have to do it all at once. It would be great if you could do it, but just at least print it off. Take a small step like that. Download it and print it off. All right. If you're not ready to print it off yet, just download it. Have it available. So maybe by tomorrow, then you can print it off and you feel comfortable print it off. All right. And then take some time and look it over. It's 30 questions. Most of them are yes or no answers. And this is really for you. Okay. This is the first step that you can take in our program. The assessment questions. It's going to help you to evaluate emotional health. And it's like 5 different areas that helps you evaluate: the emotional health, physical impact, daily functioning, social, mental, and cognitive as well too. Okay, so it's 30 questions that you can go through. Now, for those of you who are here, I want you to, whatever you do, don't leave empty-handed and not do anything. I'm going to put this link in here, and I just want to make it easy for you as far as the next steps that we have. All right. These are the next steps that you can take. And the first and foremost, I would encourage as many of you that can just join the Facebook community. All right. Healing doesn't really happen by yourself, or it's well, as we come together, remember, it's not good for man to be alone. So community is one of the areas that we can come together and we can share in different ways in there. All right. So we ask you to join the Facebook community. I just put the link in there. Okay. Join the Facebook community. Second is if you want to come to our remaining session, not remaining, our recurring sessions. We're calling them journey sessions because grief to life is a journey. Grief is a journey. So you can sign up on that link for our journey sessions and you'll get notified when we have those sessions. Now, next session is supposed to be scheduled for next Saturday. However, I know my wife is traveling. I know it's Resurrection Sunday weekend. So we may shift that. But if you sign up, you get notifications of our next sessions. You'll get notifications of the journey sessions, and you also get notifications of these one-day webinars. So you can be a part of this as well, too. Because even hearing this time and again, when I presented a little bit differently each time. And then definitely when the questions come up, the questions are always different as well as we get to questions in a few minutes. So you'll hear something different. So we encourage you, you can come on as many times as you want, even to share with other people that are in here as well in the chat. So stay connected to us in journey sessions. And then the third thing, but join the Facebook community, 1, 2, stay connected during session. Third thing is help someone else heal. All right. If you are able to on that page, and when you're ready to, you can definitely donate towards Lighthouse Ministries. It's on the page that I gave you the link. You can donate. You can buy a book. We have Grief to Life, Transforming Pain into Purpose. Buying a book helps to support the ministry. We say buying one book helps another person to heal. So you can buy multiple books and maybe even give it to other people while you're also helping us to reach another person that needs grief, help, support. So all of that is on the page that I just gave to you. Okay. I just haven't seen Jacqueline. So I don't think you put a question in. My doctor said the way to change mood is through action. So if you stay on, we're going to go into questions. If you put that in the questions, I'll even talk about that a little bit as well. All right. So we're about to get into questions right now. You guys have, you buy the books on the link that I gave. I can give it to you again. That link I gave you has all 3 steps in there. It has a Facebook group in there. I just want to make it easy. You can join the Facebook group right from there. You can sign up to be reminded of our journey sessions. Okay. And then you can also buy a book which supports our ministry, or you can just donate to the ministry. All right. Because then again, this is what this is only for someone that is able to. If you're not, we understand. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to, before we get into that, I have to share with you just some testimonials from some people that have been through our program before. I have to read it down here because it's too small for me to read up there. All right, so you see them on the screen. These are just some people that have been through our program from previously. I know you said this is not therapy, but it has been therapeutic for me. Again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a grief therapist. I'm not a grief counselor. I'm a grief to life coaching minister. All right. However, some of the things that we share, people find it therapeutic, and in counsel, as counsel, as a pastor as well. This is, people do find it in counsel. So I just make it clear to people that I do not label myself a grief therapist or a grief counselor. I'm a Grief to Life coaching minister. Thank you for helping me go through it in my time of mourning and anxiety. May the Lord continue to help you encourage and support others in their most difficult time. You were a blessing to me. Thank you. Okay, so other people have gone through anxiety and panic attacks. Remember I shared before about like breath work, which I know I didn't get too much into today, but those are the kind of things that we would share going forward. I wouldn't have been able to do it without the steps you guys have put in place with the wheel and all the different things that have made me think about what my purpose is. I've been in 4 different grief workshops, but this by far has been the biggest change for me. Thank you. All right, so the wheel is another tool that we use within our program. Again, we've given you the first tool, which is the assessment questions. And I don't want you to take it lightly. This is something that many people have gotten level of healing just from doing the assessment questions. People have taken the question and came back to us and said, it made me think about some things, and it helped them just by answering the questions, just by reflecting on the questions. So that's definitely the first tool that we use. And really, for those of you who want to be part of the journey sessions, we want you to do that first step first. So I should have said this before, but just hold off on signing up for the journey sessions until you do the assessment questions first. Okay? Because when we go on journey sessions, we want to kind of move forward past. We want to take the assessment questions, go through it, but then go beyond the assessment questions. So if you're not ready for the assessment questions to do the questions, just have it, work on it. Come back to the one-day webinars when we have them. Okay, you can come back again. You'll hear me a little bit differently. It'll be a little different. Maybe the size will be a little different too. I'll present a little different. I may say something different. But you have the first tool already. All right, the wheel is something else that we use. Another great tool which we have available. All right. So another one. This has helped me be more confident, be more courageous, to say no, to overcome triggers, using the pain to fuel my purpose. Now, today I didn't talk too much about triggers. Triggers can be, for all of us, we probably have different dates that can be a trigger. It could be our loved one's birthday. Holidays is triggers for just, many people. It could be anniversaries. It could be not just a date. It could be a place. It can be a trigger. And triggers is just things that will bring us back into that sense of like deep mourning again. Like, we know our anniversary is coming up and our loved one isn't here with us, and it's gonna trigger those feelings again. So we work through of how to, work around those trigger dates or trigger places. The last one we have here is thank you for your ministry. Being with you guys has encouraged me to be strong. We also learn to empathize with others going through this and to encourage and help them also. So a big part of our program, again, is it's a group, all right? And we care for each other. We help each other where we can. We support each other. That's why, we want you to be part of a group, and those who can even share in and help someone else, whether through donation or just being, encouraging on these platforms, is also really, really helpful. Okay. All right, so I see Wilma. I'm going to come back to questions. All right, if you give me 2 minutes, my wife is going to join me. All right, so I usually say this, I should have said earlier. If you guys like me, you're going to love my wife. All right, because she's just wonderful. But it's different. She's Karen. Okay. So she's going to be on with me in about 2 minutes, and we're going to go through the questions together. And we're going to go through all the questions in the question area first, and then we'll also look through the chat section. And if you guys place stuff in the chat that will possibly be answered. Usually the chat section I can only skim through because there's a lot of other information in the chat. So you can put that. Please put it in the question area. So I'm gonna play this video for 2 minutes that you can watch while she'll kind of get up here, and we'll get ready to answer your questions. And then we'll go from there. Okay. And if you guys got something from this, I know some of you wrote in there already, please just put it into the chat. If you got anything, I know a lot of people just come on, just watch and maybe not put anything in the chat at all. And that's fine. We don't want to push anybody. If you're not comfortable doing it, that's perfectly fine. But anybody that wants to and can, if you got found any benefit from being on today, then please put it into the chat section. It helps to encourage, not it's the group, right? When other people see that, other people encouraged and maybe some things you may share, it helps other people as well. All right. It lets me know too if I'm sharing something that maybe is good, that I can maybe reinforce or even share something a little bit differently as well. Okay. So please do so in the 2 minutes. We're going to do this now, and we'll be right back with you. Grief can feel overwhelming, but you're not alone. Grief to Life coaching helps you grow through grief, not just go through it. We guide you from heartbreak to healing, from loss to life. When we experience deep loss, the emotions don't always make sense. Grief can show up as anger, sudden, sharp, and unexpected. It can bring anxiety, fear of what's next. And often, there's guilt about what we did or didn't do. These all are natural, but they don't have to define us. Here are 3 truths we hold on to. 1, grief doesn't have to last forever. Healing is possible. 2, grief shared is grief divided. Talking helps. And 3, it's okay to not be okay, but don't stay not okay. There's life after loss, and we're here to help you find it. Grief to Life coaching is for those who are hurting, for those who've lost a loved one and feel stuck, for anyone searching for healing, for people who want support but don't know where to start, and for those looking for direction in a life that suddenly feels off course. Our coaching helps you rediscover your identity. You don't have to stay stuck in sorrow. Let us help you move from grief to life. Visit www.grieftolife.com. All right. See, I'm magically joined with my wife. All right. So I'm gonna change the thing a little bit so they can see more of us, because we're gonna move to the questions anyway. All right. So thank you all for being here. And
thank y'all. Hi, everyone. So grateful for you guys being on, and just thank you for allowing us to walk alongside you, and you all walking alongside us as well. Know that we are here to support you. We're praying for you. This is a community. Thank you for trusting us during this time. I hope you got some value from what my husband shared with you all today. All right, let's go to the questions. I know you guys have been on and just waiting with us for some time now, and we appreciate that.
All right. Hey, Israel. All right, you guys can hear Karen okay? I want to make sure if you just... Yes. All right. Thank you, Miranda. Okay. All right. So this is actually a special time because this is the first time Karen is coming on the webinar with me. She's on the Zooms with me. So like when we do the journey sessions, usually we'll do Zooms because a little more engagement with that. So she's been on there, but this is her first webinar that she's been on with me. So, all right. So we're going through the questions. I'm at the top.
Okay.
So Louise, I think I already answered already. And thank you for getting started right with how much. So I explained that already in reference to there's no cost to join our program. However, I do stress we definitely can use donations. We definitely can. It does help to spread the ministry to reach other people for those who's able to donate. And we put that in the link that you guys should have the next steps. All right. So we have that there. Okay. So Kimberly said, how's everyone doing today? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Okay. All right. So let's see. So I'm looking for questions. I know some people were putting more statements in there. So I'm looking for questions. Okay.
And we love that you guys are sharing so honestly and just so openly. And just, I feel so much love, even as you guys are sharing those so near and dear to you. And I love the fact that you're allowing us to see how important each of your loved ones, their lives are to you still. I don't like to use the word were or was, because they are still ever present with us whenever we feel the love for them or when we're grieving or anything like that. So I'm so grateful to see the different stories, to hear the different lives that you're sharing with us, allowing us to just kind of see a sneak peek. Let me see. Did you see any?
Well, no. So
Okay.
This is not a question. I kind of just stopped on here though. It says, Joyce said, I pray for each one of us that are living this life of misery without the children or significant person in life or even a pet. So I think she just mentioned, for one, we grieve different times, and grief is still grief, and one of the big things that we talk about in our program is that we don't compare.
Yeah, we don't compare grief. And for the reason that, and as we'll see, and as you guys probably saw, like during the chat, that there's so many stories. Every life matters. Every life has a story to tell. Each of our loved ones that we've had. And the reason why we don't compare grief is the fact that grief is it's such an individual process, is so unique to each and every single one of us, that to say, okay, my grief is greater than your grief, or that grief seems less than mine, or something like that. We each have a different relationship with the ones that we have shared life with, shared time with, shared joys and ups and downs. So because of that, we each have individual ways that we will grieve. Even as my husband shared, he grieved differently for his mom. I grieve differently for her as well. We've had other losses as well that, I may have grieved a little bit, but it's not comparing it, just understanding that it's an individual to us because we have loved them differently than anyone else. We have shared life differently with them than anyone else. So when we kind of choose to say mine is better than yours, or I feel it harder than you, or it's almost kind of invalidating someone else's grief and the life that they've shared with someone else. So that's why that's one of the key things that we share when we share our guidelines, when each person comes in the program, that we shouldn't compare grief because we each feel it differently. We just know that we have in common that we're all grieving in different ways, shapes, or forms.
Yeah. All right. So in the question area, there's still a lot of comments in there, and I'm going to just go to questions, but this is one where I stopped at from Joyce. I think she came off, so I have to hang up. My daughter's here, and I have to get my husband dinner. We just had a massive argument. Thank you all. I pray for you all. Please pray for us. Thank you again and again and again. It will be much appreciated. Okay. So Joyce, and I was just saying, a lot of times, and this may answer someone else's question down the road, or people have asked this question before, when we're grieving, as I said before, it doesn't just affect us. Mm-hmm. It affects the relationships that we have with other people too. And usually a big part of that is that, we're all grieving. Yeah. I'm grieving, you're grieving, they're grieving, and how we're handling it is all sensitive and different, and it can lead to some conflicts. Yeah. So, for those of you who are here, because, you're here and you're listening to me, I would just say to have a little bit of understanding that other people are grieving as well too, and maybe extend a little bit of grace and just realize that it's a sensitive time, not just for us, but for sometimes the children in the family, or siblings and so forth. Just realize that everyone is grieving, and don't just think that we're the only ones that this affected, and it's just we're the only ones grieving. Everyone has to cater to us and how we are handling it, because other people too, especially our loved ones, are likely feeling that loss in a way as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead through the questions. Okay. I'm going to go to the questions area. I'm still looking through because a lot of.
Wait. Let me see if there was a question about.
I'm scanning through them really quickly.
Widow's fire. There's someone that says, "Can you touch?" I don't know what that
is. So Mark put, "Can I touch on widow's fire?" And I'm not familiar with that term.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
What widow's fire is. Okay.
We can find that out if anything, but
yeah, or if you could maybe expound on what you're asking.
Yeah.
As far as widow's fire. Okay. Doing better. Okay. Gilma, good to see you on, Gilma. Do better looks like thanking God for having them. Yeah, that's good. Good answer. Okay. I'm still just going through the questions area. Okay.
I believe some of the comments got shifted. They may have shifted into they look the similar way. The chat bubble and the question bubble looks the same, like very similar.
Okay. Gilman said, "I never understood that diving back into grief or saying happy birthday to someone who has passed." Oh, okay. Yeah. So I've seen that. I mean, I see that on social media a lot of times when they're still wishing happy birthday to someone that's not still here, alive with us. I think it's really just a sense of a big part of it is still honoring the memory, honoring their life. Yeah. I think that's a big part of why people may be hesitant to move on, because sometimes we equate moving on with forgetting about a loved one. All right. So
which is not the case.
It's not the case. So moving forward, just like I'm saying, I'm moving forward with my mom, my dad, my friend, and I still honor them and bring them into our business that we have. We share stories about them, things I do today that I even attribute to what I learned through them. Is me still moving forward and honoring their memory in that way as well.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
So what you were saying here about like why they do that, like happy birthday, it's the way that they want to honor their loved one still. Even though I understand what you're saying with it, but it's just finding the right ways to honor them in our living. And that's what grief life is. How can we live the life that we still have, that the Lord still has for us, and still honor the lives that impacted us? Yeah. Okay.
And remember, it's not about forgetting our loved ones, even as we're journeying on. Many times the things that we do can be honoring them as we're going on, whatever decisions, new life. It could be something that they may have wanted for us or wanted for us to do. And when we choose to do that, choose to take those steps in that area, that is a way of honoring them. Or it's something that they may have said to us. There's people that have over the years have said things to us that, their loved one has said, it's you can move on. Make sure that you do this. But sometimes it's hard to do that in honoring them. But what I wanted to also talk about too is a difference. I've heard someone say this and share this. I can't remember right now, but who said it. but there's a difference between moving on and moving forward.
Grace said that.
Grace. Grace said that. Yes. And I was like, I wanted to make sure, because I thought it was so powerful when she shared that there's a difference between moving on and moving forward. And moving on, sometimes it's what a lot of people tells us to do. Isn't it time to get over it? It's time to, go on. And in other words, it's almost like we're leaving that person, our heart behind as we're going. But no, there's a difference. When you move forward, you're moving forward with that love for them, with those memories that you have, with them still echoing in our ears, pushing us on as we take those steps forward, not forgetting, not giving up any love, not every time we push past those moments of fear, every time we push past those moments of can I do this or should I do this, we're still honoring them because we're walking with them. To me, in a sense, when we choose to honor them in that way by saying, you know what, I so love the fact that I had you in my life, and I so appreciate what you're doing. And I know you want, because I'm still here, I'm here and I can carry you. I can share you with others. I can come on groups like this and share your name, share your story, share anyone who will listen. I can share my life that I had with you with them, and that'll make a difference. So there's a difference between moving on. And I thank you, Grace, for that, because I just brought a whole new powerful perspective from moving on and moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So here's a question from Kimberly. It says, is it possible to hear my sister Lori telling me that she's okay? You want to answer that?
Oh, I thought you were going, okay. Is it possible to hear my sister Lori telling me that she's okay? Just as I was talking about, sometimes we hear those echoes of them. They're still, we might find a time that we may hear like we're doing something, and we may kind of, sometimes you may feel like you physically hear them, or sometimes I've heard so many times, and this has happened to me myself, that I've had dreams, I've seen different things. Like I had lost my grandmother some years ago, and she came to me in a dream, and there was a warning. There's times that we can literally, because we know what they would say in a particular situation, like oh, you shouldn't be doing this, or yes, go, let's do that, or you kind of can hear them in a sense, especially when you know who they are and how they were. It's almost like I said, those echoes that still travel with us, that's still part of us with them, that will let us know that yes, they're still present, ever present. And it is possible, I believe, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, to really know that they're okay. In that sense, just knowing. Yeah.
And I just add to it as well too. When you say, is it possible to hear my sister? Yeah, it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
And for some people, they may hear from their loved ones, and some people don't.
Yeah.
And I think both ways are okay. It's fine if you hear from loved ones. What I want to, just like I talked about, to determine and kind of being honest with where we are, how you're experiencing your grief, and how it's presenting itself to you, whether you're hearing, you're seeing your loved one, pictures of them, or, images of them, or what have you, or you're not, that's the reality of how you're experiencing it. And I don't want anyone to feel bad for however they're experiencing their grief, and, how it's presenting to them.
Yeah.
All right. Because there's no right way to grieve, and there's no wrong way to grieve. There's only your way to grieve, right? And Grief to Life, and what we're here for, is to help you from wherever you are on your way to get to where you want to go for yourself.
Yes.
All right. So we won't tell you, you shouldn't be hearing from your loved one, or you should be hearing from your loved one. No, if however you are experiencing is where you are, and then where you want to move forward. What does healing look like for you? Like I asked that question before.
Yeah.
We want to help you get to that point there. So it's group, but it's very personal.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna see if I could jump more to I know we're not really answering question. Well, we did one.
What were the 4Ds?
What were the 4Ds? You can go with the 4Ds.
Okay, the 4Ds. The first one is to determine, as my husband spoke about in the webinar. Determining means it determines where you are, just like with the GPS, as he spoke about. You have to first know, even as he said, we help you, number one, to see where you are by using the tools or conversations or different things that we may do with you to determine exactly where you are in your grief journey. The questions are amazing if you take the time and just sit with it. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. You could do one section at a time, 2 questions at a time, a question at a time. And it's just about being intentional in doing that. But to first determine where you are, because that's going to help you even with the next stages, which is the next one, which is to decide what healing looks like for you, where you want to go from here. Because like I said, so it's first determine, then it's to decide. And grief is so brutal. It comes on us sometimes so unexpectedly, so harsh. And number one, it takes us for a loop. It takes us out of sorts, takes us out of places, puts us in all kinds of places and spaces that we never even thought were possible for us mentally, emotionally. We're all over the place. And it seems like everything is out of control, right? But when we go into the decide stage, we get to be intentional. We get to be the ones to make the choice. I didn't choose for my loved one to not be here, but I can choose now to take one itty bitty step forward, still honoring them, still remembering them, still loving them, but taking that one extra step forward. Now it's you that can make that decision. So first we decide, then we determine, then we develop. And that's developing, number one, into the person that can do that. And also to develop different plans and strategies using the tools that we may offer, some of the things that we may share, whether it's journaling, whether it's doing some of our pattern interrupts that changes our mental space and how we even process our grief. So again, first you determine where you are. You decide that no, this is not where I want to stay. This is not what I want to feel anymore. This is how I want to move forward. Then you develop into the person that can do that. Even if you take a minute step forward, it doesn't matter. It's just moving forward. And then to deliver. And that deliver is you delivering on what you want. How does healing look like for you? How would you be positioned in that space? Or, delivering into allowing the community to be a support for you, allowing help to really come and sit with you and you utilize the help. But just really overall taking those steps forward through those points. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, and I would just say, too, so those are the 4Ds, but then it happens in levels.
Yeah.
All right. So you start with determine. All right. And sometimes people you have to go through the process. So once you do determine, then you have to get to the other parts to decide, develop, and deliver. So I just want to remind everyone, like, let's just say in reality, like you signed up to be here today. It's not enough just to sign up, right? What's the next step? Then you have to show up.
Yeah.
All right. So you signed up, which is one level. That's great. Many people probably saw it and didn't sign up, but you signed up. Good. Next thing, you got to show up.
Yeah.
Okay. So you showed up. All right. Now that you showed up, maybe you heard some stuff, you were encouraged, so you realize you're not alone in this anymore. But it doesn't stop there either. you have to then start to do some effort, participate,
Yeah.
start on the path of maybe doing the assessment questions. All right. And then it's just levels and levels. So I want to encourage you, that you made it this far, for those of you who are here,
Yes.
to kind of keep going on the next steps as well. Even if you've had the assessment questions before, because some people have had the assessment questions, and then they didn't necessarily do it just yet. Take your time. I don't want to rush anybody to do it, but take your time and do the assessment questions. And then maybe you've done the assessment questions, but there's a next step after that too.
Yeah.
Take your time and do it. We don't rush anybody through it because it's a journey, but we want to gently encourage everyone to keep going to that next step, because wherever you stop at is where you stop at.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I want to encourage you all to, I know we just briefly touched on triggers, but know that the grief journey is not linear. So it's not you go what I know you're talking about levels, and I know he's talking about he's talking a sense of taking each step forward. And you know what, too, along the journey, show yourself some grace sometimes too, because sometimes you may feel like you fell back, or you may have those days, the trigger days, where I would say where you may all of a sudden just break down or just lose focus or different things. Just don't be so hard on yourself in those moments, because you know what? You're realizing it. So to me, that's still a step forward. It's like, wait a minute. I know last week I didn't feel like this, but this week I'm questioning why on earth am I? This is all part of the process. You're not going backwards. You're still moving forward. If each time that happens to you and you say, you know what, I won't stay this way. I won't, or I noticed I didn't cry 20 times today. I did 19 and a half times. Give yourself grace as you're moving forward with each level, each step, and so on. Take a breath sometimes before, you kind of condemn yourself for feeling the way that you're feeling. It's okay to not be okay. The only thing that we encourage is not to stay in the same way. Even if you feel like you had a moment or moments or multiple, keep pressing forward.
All right. See the next question.
Okay, what to do when nobody wants to talk about the deceased?
Okay. All right. So I could just say real quick. Then this is a question from Jane. So thank you. When nobody wants to talk about the deceased, I shared a little bit before, but everyone's grieving. All right. So you really have to allow people to grieve the way that they have to experience grief as well too. And we don't want to force anybody to talk about their loved one or talk about the deceased, like you said as well. But you can have a space or a community that will allow you to talk about them. That's why it was important for me, even at the beginning, to let everyone to share the name of their loved ones. And I read a lot of them. I'm sure I missed a couple of them, but again, this is a space where we honor the lives of our loved ones. And what you're saying about talking about, our loved ones are no longer here, I think that's an important part of healing.
Yeah, it is.
We've done that a couple of times, and just sharing some of the lessons that we learned from them, some things they taught us, the impact that they had in our lives, and allowing them to still matter for us, right? To still have an impact on us and then on others. So it is beneficial and helpful to talk about your loved ones. If other people that are also grieving don't, you can't force them to. That wouldn't be right to force them to talk about. But if you have a space, at least you can come to, you can share about your loved one, like even here, or within our group settings, then that's where you can kind of, get some of the benefits of doing that. And maybe down the road, some of your family will be able to talk about the loved one that has died.
Yeah. And also to add that sometimes too, if you're also talking about the other side where, every time we try to talk to someone, they don't really want to hear about our loved one anymore. They don't want to hear. They think the time has gone on. Not everyone, I think my husband talked about this before too, that not everyone is has gone through grief, or even is, if they have gone through grief, they may process it a little differently, and not everyone will understand how you're grieving, and understand that you may still need time to talk and to process and to share. So, you know, again, not everyone is just being patient with others, but at the same time, still being honest, still share where you can, still open up in, like I said, in groups like this. We have our Facebook group. So many people share in places where they're not able to share with the loved ones and so on, and bringing questions and thoughts and stuff like that, where others can give you encouragement and input as to what they may have done and so on. But just know that not everyone is going to understand how you're grieving, and the fact that you still need time to talk, to say your loved one's name out, or, you know, just to talk altogether. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me jump down. So Jane says, really quickly, says, you helped me a lot to move on. Thank you. And I know you spoke about it before.
Yeah.
That's not so much about moving on, because we don't want to forget about our loved ones, but just moving forward. And yeah, that's what we want to help people to do.
Yeah, I understand what she's saying.
That.
But
so,
yeah.
Okay. All right. So Carol says, how do I accept losing my son? Okay. You want to say anything on that, or I can answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us here are facing tragedy through grief, the reality, you know, and whether it's, you know, a child, a parent, a sibling, or spouse. And really the Grief to Life program, it's about how do we, how is it impacting us, right? Because you've lost your son, and how is that impacting you, Carol? And, you know, what effect is this? Is why the determined questions is important for us, to see how is this impacting you in your life and your living, and then helping you to move through that. And that I believe that's when you're saying, like, the accepting of it. This, how is this impacting you, and how can we help you to get healing, get better, which you may term as acceptance. Okay, but it still starts off with, okay, how is this really impacting you in your life and in your living? And it's going to be different for you.
Yeah.
Even if, you know, even if another person lost a child, how it impacts you is going to be different than how it impacts them. So we want you to even still take these steps to walk through, all right, and, you know, start to get the healing that you need, and the, even I would say, acceptance. And I'm just using that other word because you said about accepting, acceptance that you need, so that you can, you know, start to move forward. Okay?
And, you know, a powerful way to do that as well, and others will see that, is the initial, the questions that we give you. When so many people that have gone through our program have just the questions, the initial questions to determine where they are, the assessment questions, it like opens up, I don't know, something in our hearts, our minds. Is sometimes it just, I know people have shared, it's like things just kind of clicked, because they never saw it, because they were so busy processing it here and hurting and all of that, that when they finally were able to go through the questions and answer the questions and see it plainly on paper, it began to make sense, in that sense of, okay, now I'm starting to understand. Now I can find peace in this part of it, even though I may not have peace in this part of it, but I'm grateful for the peace in this part of it. And I can use this, how I'm feeling here, to help me in this area, if you guys can kind of understand that. But to start kind of piecing or pulling apart the layers of hurt and just not knowing, it start with the questions that will start helping the healing process.
Okay. Uh, so Miranda says, please send info for the journey and the groups, please. I put it in the chat area. I'll put it again when I get to that section. Also for the 30 questions, I'll put it again before I end the session. And the books is also at that same place. It's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's on that page. That third page you should have the third number that you can buy a book on there. Jacqueline says, how do I get motivated to keep going? I've been buried under my grief and regret. Okay. So some of the ways that I've shared before, as far as how we can oftentimes find great motivation, even after loss and grief, is by thinking about ways that our loved ones would have wanted, some things for us.
Yeah.
So usually I share two things. I share, there might be some things that our loved one always told us that they wanted us to do. All right. They wanted us to be doing something, or they could see us really doing this. You'd be great at, an author, or whatever. And then now they're no longer here. And we remember these things that they might have saw. Remember, sometimes we need other people to see things in our life for us. So they saw some things in us. Potentially, they might have saw some things in us and said, I could really see you doing this. And now they're not here. We then take up more motivation to do these things in honor of them, or really to honor them. And that can be motivating in that sense. Another thing could be something that they were involved with themselves, they were really passionate about. And now they're no longer here, then we might take up the baton, so to say, and we can actually start to fulfill that thing. All right, so those are the two ways that I usually share on here. Another thing that I say too, as far as like motivation, a lot of us are motivated to help other people.
Yeah.
All right. So even like on the chat, I know people are talking, and I see other encouraging words are motivating for other people as well too. Even as we go through pain, we can actually help other people, and oftentimes we're motivated to do that. This is something that Yeshua did in the Bible when he actually was learned of John the Baptist's death, and then he went out, he ministered to people. And then there's another story in Book of Corinthians that I spoke about before, where it says that we are comforted so that we can comfort others. Okay. So even by this whole thing of helping other people, we can get a great motivation to do that. I've seen so many other people have gone through, because they've gone through this pain and this suffering, and they don't want anybody else to go through what they went through. And now they're motivated so much more to do something to help others so they can avoid it, or others that might be going through it as well. And guess what? As they're helping other people, it also helps the person. Okay. So those are a couple of ways that we can get motivation. But even, as we go through some of the things in the program, if you participate and kind of go through the different things, I'm confident the Lord will show you some things even to the end that you'll be motivated to that. Okay. All right. So I'm again looking through. Okay. So Keisha says, how do you get past your grief when your mom was your everything? You will see her every day, and you was her caregiver, and she was my prayer warrior and my everything. Okay. You want to say?
And it's all I saw. I saw all through there, Keisha, is just, I felt how very much you love your mother. And as my husband said, you're going to carry that grief for her for the rest of your life, as we're carrying our grief forward for the rest of our life. But in there, I saw how you cared for her. And even as my husband said, for you to have the heart to be a caregiver, I know that was your mom. That's something that you can even transfer to someone else, and, helping to, show that help for someone else. I'm just looking, it's not, I'm trying to say it's that, because I guess I'm getting kind of, I'm pausing at that word past because it seems almost like it feels like a letting go, but you're not letting go of her. It's carrying her with you. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. It's carrying her with, because it's almost like when you say get past, it just seems like it's a letting go type of a thing. Remember, it's holding on to who and how your relationship is with your mom, and you'll never lose that. But now these feelings that you're doing, I'm sure, think about what your mom would have wanted for you. I'm sure she would have wanted you to carry forward. Think about how she would have wanted you to be and move in that space. She is your everything. She continues to be your everything. And you can share some of who she is with others by the things that you do in life, the things, how you function, caring for others, giving even some of that love, receiving some of that for yourself as well, caring for yourself as well. Like I said, thinking about the things that your mom would want for you, how she would want you to carry forward. I'm sure because you have done so much for her, she would have wanted you to have so much more in life and out of life. All right. So like I said, I saw so much love in just that one space of what you were sharing with your mom, and how she is to you, and she will continue to be that for you. Just continue to carry her in moving as she would want for you to move moving forward.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Yeah. And then I would just say with this, when you said she was your prayer warrior. So now the reality is, as believers, um, we have a different hope than
Yeah.
the rest, than not not believers, I'll say, in that regards. Um, and so there's a story in the Bible with where Jesus gives a parable with rich man and Lazarus. So not Lazarus that died. This Lazarus dies too, but the rich man and Lazarus, and it's talking about they die, and then they want to send the rich man wants to send a message back to his family and friends, telling them, don't come. He wasn't in a good place, and not so much of a focus on the story, just what it's kind of showing us that our loved ones, even though they may not be here physically in the presence with us, um, I believe this story shows us that they are still aware of what's going on with us here.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when I'm talking about my mom, my dad, and my friend, um, I can hear them, not literally, but I can see them cheering me on and be like, keep going, keep going. And I told, people told me all the time, your mom, your dad, they would be so proud of you of what you're doing. And I totally believe that. So even with your mom, um, you know, she's cheering you on, in a sense, to keep going. We love them enough to grieve them, and I believe they love us enough that they want us to live.
Yeah.
They want us to continue, living our life. And when we're able to do that, their life still matters through us.
Yeah.
Again, me sharing about my parents and my friend, they didn't just bless me and my family. Now their story is blessing everyone that I can share it with as well too. So even as you're able to live and to share about your mom and all these things, this she could still be your warrior for you.
Yeah. And her prayers are still present. Mm-hmm. Those prayers don't just evaporate. They're still working in your life. So her prayers did not fall to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. So just know that those prayers are still present. And that's something that you may be, again, like I said, even do for others as well.
Yeah. Now I don't know if this was in, but I didn't read this yet. But Miranda was kind of ready. I think I don't know if this was to Keisha, but maybe it was. But it's like the same thing. So my mom always used to go to church, be there for me, and always prayers with me through everything. She was there,
Yeah.
right? So, all right. Um, so Jane says when people don't want to talk about the deceased, even his siblings. Yeah. So I think we spoke on that
Yeah, we
already.
spoke
That
about
not
it, yeah.
everyone, everyone, you have to give everyone opportunity to grieve. Um,
Human.
this helped me understand my siblings, not discuss that. How do you approach them without fear of causing harm? Okay. So this is, you're saying like about talking to siblings. So when I said before, everyone's going to grieve at their own pace. So you can't force anyone to talk about, or you shouldn't, or yeah, just like I wouldn't want somebody to force you or force anybody here to, you should grieve this way or you should talk about it. You have to give them the space to grieve how they want to grieve. This, as I said before, there are a lot of benefits to talking, but if they're not ready for it, you gotta either wait, or if you could do it in a and you have to kind of measure your siblings yourself, but do it in a gentle way. I always kind of like to liken it to like how Jesus taught and how he shared, and even though he wants to get different things across to them, sometimes he was straightforward, but sometimes he had to speak to them in ways that they could understand. So, like even if you're speaking to your siblings, if you can bring it up in a way, okay, not like we're gonna all sit down here and talk about, um, you know, um, your loved one, but just have an opportunity where you guys can maybe share some stories. You just ask a question like, "Hey, didn't such and such ever used to do?" More subtle, a little more subtle way of getting a conversation going, and just don't force the issue with it, even though it can be something that's good to do, but
And I'll share something too. Sometimes we think that approaching or helping others in grief means that we have to talk, we have to conversate, we have to bring it up, or just kind of. Sometimes it's just being present. It's just you know what? I'm here to support you. If you want to talk, you talk. If you don't want to, we could just sit here. We can look at pictures. We can, sometimes it's. I remember some time ago, a good friend of ours, she went through the passing of her son, and when we went there for the first, I don't know how long it was, we just sat in silence. We just sat. She cried, family cried, we're crying and sometimes that's all it is. Sometimes the best help can be just being quiet, not ignoring, not but just still being present and available. But sometimes we don't have to say all, and sometimes it is to just, I'll say it like this: ask them what they might need at that time, not us going there to impose something that we may feel that they may need this or they may need that. Ask them, listen, how I see you still going through. How can I support you? How can I be of help to you? I really don't want to cause harm or anything to you. I just want to let you know that I'm here, I'm present. How can I best help you? All right. So seeing it from their perspective.
Okay. Louise says, how long does grieving take? My son died last month.
Okay. As we talked about before, we grieve our loved ones for the rest. As long as we have loved them and we'll continue to love them, we're going to grieve for them. It's just that the impact, how it hurts, how it doesn't, it's not the same impact as it will be from the very first time that it happens. As time goes on, we'll have our moments, because there's moments that, you know, I'm like, oh, it's been years, and I've had my times of joy, as my husband even shared. And then there may be a trigger, or you know, a birthday came up, or a joy, like we would see that either our children got married, or a new grandchild, or something else happened, and we'll think, oh man, I wish they could have been here. And that may bring a tear, but it just won't be the same hurt that we feel. We'll find more moments to laugh, or more moments of peace, and just knowing how much we love them, wishing that they were still present, praying at times, you know, that they were still present with us. However, the impact will be different. So grief is going to be with us, but we just won't along the way feel the same great, devastating impact it is in the very beginning.
And then I would say too, like some people, and this is on the other side as well too, some people have been on, I think it was the last session or 2 weeks ago, where they didn't have the funeral yet. You know, sometimes it's very early,
very raw. Yeah.
But it's the way we work is it's all at your time, at your space, and at your pace.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't rush anybody into anything before they feel comfortable doing it. It's just, but we want you to take small steps.
Yeah, and Louise, just also really know that it's just last month, like you said. Mm-hmm. Still very raw, still very early.
Okay. All right, Gilma says, what about emotional distance? How do I connect with them? For instance, a brother and a sister.
And from what I'm getting, I guess is what you're saying is during the time of the grief, or during the time of whatever challenge it is, that there was a disconnect emotionally. That's another thing, again, how I would say is, you would kind of, because you may see it from your perspective, your emotion and how on, but coming at it maybe from their side, and asking, you know, asking certain questions that are more in helping the entire situation, where it helps you but helps them, where the questions that can give you a little bit more gauge of how they may be feeling, and also being honest too with them how you may be feeling. It's about just really making a time to have that conversation, and it's going to take time. If the distance I don't know how long this has been, but it's just taking the one first step to connect, and that might be you. It's not waiting on them, but just making that first step to just reach out, or make some attempt to bridge that emotional gap that may be happening. I don't know if you had something else to share on that.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, you know, just like when there's emotional disconnect within a family, we find that, you know, love builds the bridge.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, love builds the bridge, and that's by us demonstrating love to them, even if they may reject it at points
initially. Yeah.
Initially, but if we're looking to reestablish that, it's that love that builds the bridge there. You know, even if they may be on that unlovable, and I always put it back to, you know, that's what the Lord God did for us in our unlovable state as well, that He loved us, you know, even before we asked for forgiveness, even before we repented, He loved us enough to come and to die on the cross for us, and put that availability for the reconnection to be reconciled back to Him. Yeah. So, you know, even as we're looking to get back into that cross that emotional distance, that bridge of love. Yeah. And love in different ways, right? So love is Doing maybe some kind things, whatever. Love sometimes may be, um, giving them space. It's loving them uh, regardless of what they may be doing.
And
Okay.
forgiveness goes a long way. Forgiveness
Absolutely.
goes a long way
Okay.
with all of that. Yeah.
All right, let's move forward. So, what does the scripture say about honoring the dead? So,
It's a
Gil,
good question.
yeah. So, Gil's going to go into Bible study as well. Yeah. So, I mean, when we say honoring the dead, it's like we're not quote unquote like I know it's not like worshiping, or we're not doing
Yeah.
that regards. Definitely just like building a memorial, right? And remembering them. Just like, I mean, you can think about scriptures like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You still remember what you were passed down from your forefathers,
Yeah.
and you remember what they taught, and you're still living off of what they taught you, and you're still carrying it forward. And that's how we talk about as far as honoring them in that regards. But not definitely not like idolizing them.
Yeah.
In those regards.
And even think about in the scripture where Joseph, if you know the story of Joseph, he told them when he passed, it's sometimes honoring what a request
What they
what they wanted us to do. A request like Joseph asked after his passing. He said, when the children of Israel were to move out of Egypt, he said, make sure that they get take his bones. Don't leave his bones buried there in the land of Egypt. He asked them to take his bones and go with them when they left Egypt. So honoring is also honoring their requests, and that's one example in scripture where it talks about really honoring what a person that has been deceased has asked of us to do.
Okay. All right. Mark. Okay. So Widow's Fire. So came back to Widow's Fire. Widow's Fire is when after about 16 months, you have an uncontrollable desire for sex, regardless of your past desire or lack of, not mattering who or how many, and perhaps more kinky. Okay. So I think originally he was asking about what about Widow's Fire?
Okay. Widow's Fire, as far as wanting to be intimate again after your spouse, is that?
Yeah. Well, let's say if it's your spouse that's not there.
It's a question I've never been posed.
Mark is coming with
I'm gonna be quite honest with you, Mark. Okay, you have an uncontrollable desire for sex, regardless of your past desire or lack of, not mattering who or how many, and perhaps more kinky. And I see this too. This is also sometimes what my husband talked about as one of the things that where we can get stuck in grief. And I don't know if this, but I just want to share this with you because this is what came to my mind. It's when he talked about substances, about abusive substances, and that can come sometimes in sexual encounters, even after your spouse or loved one has passed on. That can become part of your addiction, part of your covering, part of I don't want to deal, and this is just what I want right now. And that's part of even what we talk about, even in our program, of, not allowing these things to kind of numb our healing senses, because now going on what I consider almost like, even how you're talking about it, almost like a sexual rampage. It's kind of really setting aside your healing, allowing yourself to really truly feel, because of maybe the love that you may not feel that you have anymore, or just this, like I'm saying, I'm seeing it almost like it's coming off as another way of the substances, as you talk about. So we're not really dealing, Mark, I would say, dealing with the healing at all, but just kind of covering it, and that hinders, I would say, every kind of our senses, whether it's sight, as you said, nope, not even caring anymore, not mattering who or how many are the way that's visually impairing ourselves. Also, hearing, really not listening to that voice of saying, no, this is not the way to kind of approach the healing. Touch, everything gets convoluted because there's so many different now relationships, and like I'm saying, it's like it dulls everything, it skews everything, because it's a way of really setting aside what's our hurts or what's really happening, and not allowing ourselves not allowing yourself to truly heal.
Yeah. So, Mark, thank you for asking this question though too, because this first time we got asked this question, which is good.
Yeah.
I would turn it back to similar to what you're saying as well in reference to like the unhealthy substances. So, the reason why, like, say somebody drink alcohol or someone would take drugs is because they have this pain and they want something to cure it, and they think that this is a cure.
Yeah.
But cure is not really the cure. It's just a temporary fix of numbness or what have you.
Yeah.
So I would liken it to this as well too. And like if somebody is going through widow's fire, it sounds like, what are they looking for?
Yeah.
They're looking for same thing we were talking about on here. They're looking for connection. All right.
Yeah.
So looking for connection. And this is what we talk about, like community. And I mean, it kind of goes to the overall understanding of grief. Grief is the pain or the devastation that we're feeling because there has been a separation.
Yeah.
All right. Our loved one isn't here anymore. It's a spouse, I guess, in this case. But our loved one isn't here anymore. And we've lost that connection. So now let's get other connections by whatever means necessary. Yeah. And it's not necessarily the best connection if we're doing it like how you're speaking here, like how this widow's fire is, where there's more community connection that we can have with other people. And not to say that someone who was married can get married again and so forth,
right.
But just within the scope of how I would say how God created it, and not just having you use word rampage, but again, the connection is what is missing. Yeah. Now, we introduce through here, have a connection through community. Now, there's another thing I'll just say real quickly. I know because it ties to this, even though we're not talking about sex or we're talking, exactly, but when we have a relationship with people in our lives, right? It could be a spouse, but then it could also be, sibling, it could be friends, it could be parents, it could be children, what have you. We are electrical beings. So in a sense, my wife, besides being my wife, she brings a charge to me. She brings, there's something that she brings to my life, some kind of electrical charge. My children too. So I'm not putting in just in a sexual sense. My children, parents, that, and friends, they add to me by bringing that electrical charge into my life. When they're not here anymore, then I'm missing something. Yeah. I'm missing their presence in my life.
Feel it.
And we feel it. So we look to get it, or we can look to get it from other sources, but we want to make sure we're getting it from the right sources. Yeah. All right, not just getting it from anywhere and getting, because we can get the wrong charge. We can pick up the wrong charges as well too.
Yeah.
But community and having a healthy, safe environment like that would be what can help to restore that connection that we're missing at that point. Okay. So again, with that said, I'm not saying that if you were married before that you can't get married again. If that's something you desire to do and have a fulfilling, intimate sexual relationship with your spouse, absolutely. But hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helped, even for anyone else that's listening as well too.
That's great.
Very good, Michelle. Went back to college, finished a degree to honor your mom, just graduated. Congratulations. That's the beautiful stuff. We would love for you to put that in a Facebook group. We would applaud you, congratulate you. And, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, same
Okay,
thing,
uncontrollable urge for sex is perhaps simply defined. It's the connection. All right. All right. Let me see how to get past the resent. Okay. Gilman says, how do you get past the resentment for a death? All right. So I think I spoke about that with my mom before, that I was, angry with her over, allowing herself to get sick and to die and to leave. So I'm going to just put it back into the program, so to say, in reference to that. We still have to, this death is impacting you in some way, shape, or form. All right. The assessment questions. So, Gilma, I hope you actually have downloaded it and have it available. He did.
He said I saw it.
Okay. All right. Because you want to see, how is it impacting you? What are you resenting exactly? Why are you resenting it? And these questions can help you to figure out your starting point of how is it impacting you. Because probably not just resentment that you have. There's probably other things as well. But get the starting point, and then from there we can see how to move forward. Now with my mom, there was the resentment, but then we want to see how to then use even that. Whenever we go through painful and hard times in life, and if you look through your past years or what have you, those points have been some of the most transformative times of life. All right. You might have heard some news from a doctor, and because of that, you change your whole eating pattern. Or you heard some news from a professor or something, and because of that, then you got changed your career path. All these, Whenever we have these painful times, they can be the most transformative. And I can't personally think of anything that is more painful or devastating than a death. So how we like to do it in this Grief to Life program is we can use this pain, so to say, even this resentment, even this energy, I'm just putting it like that, we can use this to be motivated to do some other things. So for us, and what I shared before with my mom, we started a business that we're helping other people that have experienced grief and loss and in that regards. So even with, like what you're saying with resentment, there's still, how can we, not ignore it, not pretend like it's not there, but how can it actually be transform that pain into purpose? I went back to the name of the book, but yeah. Okay. So hopefully that helps, Gilma. Okay.
We love that you're bringing in faith and everything too, Gilma. You said, what does scripture say about losing a young life, and what can I do to process that?
Now, when you say about losing a young life,
it could be maybe person younger than I say like this, whether I know sometimes it's hard for us to kind of in a sense make sense of why would a person so young be taken from us. And I've heard it said like that. I've even said it myself. And being able to process that is the same way how we would process different grief in our life. We feel how it's impacting, and we can go through the stages again of determining where we are, how we're feeling about it, then deciding, and so on. But processing that is the same way I can't even say same, because it's everything is unique. You may look at even say that you feel something harder, a pain harder because someone so young was taken. But I say it like this: I don't know of any scripture right offhand right now about losing a young life. But again, to me, it's processing how you would process. You love the young person, you love a parent, you love a cousin. It's processing that love and how it's impacting you, and what steps can I take to kind of unpack that. And again, we keep bringing up the questions, but the questions are so powerful that will help you kind of see some of that. It'll kind of reveal some of the process of whether a young person was taken away from us, a person that was older taken away from us, to process. And that's part of it, to start where you are and then continue in the healing process of understanding all of that. The questions kind of start the understanding process.
Okay. But I would say, to answer this, is when you talk about a young life, young is very relative, right? So you can say young life is what? A newborn. Young life is 5. You can say young life is 20. You can say young life is 30. You can say young life is 45. You can say young life is 60. You can say someone died and it was young life at 80, 90. My grandfather lived to 103. Yeah. I think whenever we face death, you never are prepared for it.
Yeah.
Right. And it could be someone that's up there in age. All right. But still, like, you're still not prepared for it. Whether, age is still, it's going to be, relative to the person. So whenever we face death, it's like, why you take them so soon? It's young. It was early.
Too soon.
But let me say this, because it's from death, but it also goes to other things as well. When we face these hard times in life, we don't understand when we are going through these things, why these things happen. But then I turn to my favorite scripture, which is Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And it says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and them that are called according to his purpose. So it's not that all things are good.
Or feel good.
But they're working together for good. And to be honest, none of us here know how it's going to work out, but we can trust that the Lord will bring some good out of this thing. Like, for instance, when my mom died, I had no idea 26 years later, I'd be helping thousands of people in this, our Facebook group that we have now, doing the webinars and help people. I had no idea that this would be some good that comes from it, or from a start the business or anything like that. That's my particular story.
Yeah.
The story I love to go to that most people know of is the story of Joseph. When Joseph was in, with his brothers and threw him into the pit, right? Then he went into prison, and then eventually he was able to save all his people. He didn't know what good was going to come from it, because until the end. We may not be privy to that, to know what's, when you say a young life, or when we go through these different tragedies that we go through in life, but yet still the Lord can work some good from the different things that we go through. Even with the young life, not being here, we've had what we would say young lives. Like, we've had miscarriages. Going to say something more.
I was actually going to talk on that, because I've had to go through the processing as you're talking about too. And I'm so grateful for my faith. I'm so grateful for prayers and having community around to help, because we have gone through yes, we have 9 children, but I've also gone through 4 devastating miscarriages and 1 stillborn birth. Right? So that was young for me. But in processing that over time, yes, I went through the whole gambit of emotions and hurt and questioning God and my faith and building that back up again and so on. But you know what, how I resolved that for myself, and I can share with you, is that at the end of it, what I said to the Lord was, thank you. I was so grateful. Yes, the time was short that I had, but thank you. I was able to feel my babies. I was able to feel, thank you for the time that they were with me. Thank you for allowing them to pass through me. And I had to be grateful for the time that we had, whether it's a young child that comes on the earth and we think it's too soon that they have gone. I know it may seem outlandish or hard to do, but I'm grateful for the time that I was there. I'm grateful for the moments and the laughs that we had. I'm grateful for the smiles. I'm grateful for the space that I shared. And I'm just saying that for everybody. We can say that I'm grateful for the space or the time. It might have been short, it might have been hard, but thankful for the time. Gratitude goes a long way, and that has helped me with part of the processing.
Okay. So we have Deborah says, any suggestions on going through double grief? Lost my husband in October and now my only daughter this past Monday. I'll be raising my 5 grandchildren.
Wow.
So this is all very recent and new for you, and hopefully we can be a support for you throughout this time, and in this, especially as now you said you're going through a double grief as well. So we want to be here with you throughout this time. What I said earlier, as far as like when we have multiple griefs that we're dealing with, they're each impacting us in different ways, and sometimes they kind of build up in that regards, like you're showing. So it's still kind of figuring out like, how is this impacting you at this stage right now that you have 2 losses that you're dealing with, and still going through the question, and the questions aren't, it's not like a test, it's just allowing you to reflect on some things that maybe you wouldn't think of already. And even as I say with the questions, within some of the questions, it actually gives you some answers, so to say, because when you start to reflect and think about it, you're like, oh man, I do need to do more of this. I do need to take care of this more, So I would still encourage you, if you can, or when you can, to, look over the questions that we provided and see what you can answer, and to reflect on it, to see how it's impacting you, the loss of your husband and now your only daughter as well. And even with your grandchildren, and being, I know initially, and I'll just say this because I feel this for you right now, but like I've had this thing about being strong for other people, and now you have to raise your 5 grandchildren, but in order to be as strong as we can for other people, we have to take care of ourselves first.
Yeah.
Just like the example I love to go to, from like when you're on the airplane and they give you the emergency announcement, you have to take care of yourself first. If that emergency mask drops down, there's like a senior or a young child there, before you put it on them, you got to take care of yourself. And once you do that, then you're better able to take care of your children. Okay. So I'd encourage you, if you can, do the questions, the reflection questions, and kind of start to do that, and then also that will help your grandchildren once you're able to do that, as opposed to just attempting to be strong and power through it just because you got to jump right in to take care of them. But allow yourself some time to properly mourn and to grieve as well. But now use these questions as a way to at least ask yourself and reflect and see how it's impacting you.
And don't forget to take care of yourself, as you said. Important.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Double grief. How can you manage regrets and forgiving yourself? Okay. So Jacqueline says, how can you manage regret and forgiving yourself? So I would say, like, the regret part, certain things that's just no longer available for us to do. Maybe there were some things that we wanted to say to our loved ones, or we didn't get to say, or things we wanted to do, we didn't get to do anymore. So, because I had regret. I brought up with my dad as well. It goes along with the forgiveness part. So I put it like that. It goes along with the forgiveness, because this is all like we're kind of holding on to it in our minds. Um, One thing that we have shared, and I know I didn't get shared on this one because I wanted to be a little bit more about the information I'm sharing. One thing that we have done that has helped us with like our thoughts and kind of getting more clarity in our thinking is the journaling aspect. All right, that was one of the biggest things that helped me with my dad, was to do some journaling, which is, the Bible talks about writing things down and journaling. The whole Bible is basically it's a journal as well too. But being able to do some writing and journaling, um, to get our thoughts out, and to be honest with our thoughts, okay, of things that we regret, things that we're angry about, things that we are fearful about, things that, um, you know, and once we get it out there, what I've noticed is that it allows us to get more control of it once we're able to get out there and even get it on paper.
Yeah.
The forgiveness aspect too. Now I'm going to come from really straight biblical with forgiveness. Uh, the reason why we want to forgive other people is because when we don't and we hold on to unforgiveness, then it kind of that keeps us stuck. That's definitely another thing that keeps us stuck. So when we hold on to unforgiveness, I say unforgiveness is really holding on to us.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to be able to forgive other people. So from the biblical side of how I say with forgiveness and how I've gotten easier to forgive other people, also myself as well at times too. Sometimes I have to forgive myself for certain things. Um, is remember that Christ has forgiven us.
Yeah.
When we ask for forgiveness, even if we didn't ask for forgiveness, he died on the cross for us before we even had a chance to repent and ask for forgiveness. So we should extend forgiveness to other people,
And
so
to
that
ourselves.
way, yes,
Mm-hmm.
and in turn, that's how he also forgives us as well too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's how I would say with the forgiveness part. But the journaling is another great tool that we introduce and we use. And there's so many different ways to journal, um, writing letters, but if we'll have some more stuff in the Facebook group about that as well.
And even with the journal, I think something important that you said is when you journal, don't uh, give yourself a time to do it. I know you suggest like sometimes 5 minutes to just kind of let everything out. Don't think about it. Don't think about grammars, mistakes, or anything. Just write. Don't even just write really fast sometimes. So you don't even think. Just let everything come out. And sometimes even in that, releasing all of that will allow a peace, and even sometimes to get you to that place of even forgiveness, forgiving yourself through the different things that you just kind of just let everything out, releasing. A lot of times it's just about releasing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Louise says, how long is it? So emotional because it just happened. Read Psalm 23. My pastor told me to read it every day. Okay. All right. So reading the scriptures, reading the word, meditating on the word. I mean, the Bible speaks about that. Meditate on it day and night, that you may observe to do it. And then also another scripture, Isaiah 23:6. Thou keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee because he trusts in thee. So, definitely reading the scriptures, reading the word, keep our minds focused, as opposed to you know, uh, being focused on the loss. Um, and keep our minds focused on the word. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going to say this again within our like time that we have here, and even we'll stay on and answer all the questions. But like there's things that we want you to be a part of the community that you can learn, and there's other things that we can share in there because we just don't have time to do it here. But something that really helps with our thoughts that we teach about is affirmations.
Yeah.
All right.
Affirmations. Yeah.
So, and how to do affirmations, because so often we think that our thoughts are just uncontrollable, but that's not really the case. That's not true. All right. If I tell you guys to think of, if I tell you close your eyes and think of a zebra um, walking into in your living room or sitting at your dining table, right? Think of a zebra sitting at your dining table. All right. You can open your eyes. I imagine all of you were able to do it, right? And how did I basically get your thought to think that? It was through my words.
Yeah.
All right. And this is scripture as well too. It says faith comes by hearing. right? What we hear can actually shape all that we even believe. It can shape our thoughts. So affirmation is something that's powerful that we share that can help with the thoughts and the thinking that we have in different areas, different things.
And one way to affirm things is by the word, because as you said, the scriptures, faith comes by hearing, but also hearing the word of God. So you can also play things that will speak life, speak healing, and help into you every single day,
Mm-hmm.
especially the word. Yeah.
Okay. So Jacqueline says, I feel like David and Goliath, but I don't have a slingshot, powerless.
That's how grief is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And even as we share with the faith plus tools plus the community, so we get the support,
Yeah.
we get the knowledge, and we have faith. Really the power, even in the community that we have, power comes in us coming together.
Yeah.
Even scripture
Sharing
as
our
well too.
stories,
When we
yeah.
come together, we're gathered together in His name. He's in the midst, so we have that as well. All right. I signed up before and didn't come. Jacqueline
But I'm
said, "Okay,
glad you see it
okay."
today.
So hopefully you got something from coming today. All right. Thank you for being here, Jacqueline. Is it selfish to ask God why?
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
He wants us to just come as we are. I've asked why.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to him. Um, we're still here, human, living life here, and we're gonna ask questions. We're children still, just like how we would say, Lord's our Father. We're asking him, why did that happen? Because we're looking for answers. This is part of even the journey, but we're looking for answers. We're looking, and sometimes we may not get all the answers um, that we may be looking for, but it's not selfish to ask why. I think it's important in our healing sometimes, to have, just like how we have the questions for the it's asking ourselves, but it's, and another thing I would say is not why it's not selfish to ask God why is because he has the answers. And in asking, sometimes if we're looking and searching, it can help us, as long as it doesn't get us into that space where now we're ruminating or what ifs and why, and if it's where it gets us in that loop of getting stuck in that space where we're questioning everything. But I don't believe it's selfish at all to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so David in the Bible in Psalm there's a lot of like back and forth, and he's a man after God's own heart, and
Yeah.
he's speaking to him. Psalm 23 we was reading talking about that before, but then there's a lot of other psalms in there too that he's going back and forth and asking and not understanding all this as well. So I would say you can ask. I'm gonna. I mean, I agree with what you're saying that you can ask him why. It might be a little selfish to ask it that you want to answer, but you can ask it, but also you have to accept his answer,
Yeah.
even if he doesn't answer. Because that's the other part of scripture says you can't lean on your own understanding. We're not going to understand everything that happens
That's
to us
right.
in life. We're not going to understand why God does everything he does too. If we understood why God did everything he did, then guess what? He wouldn't be God anymore. All right. If we understood everything about him. All right. Scripture says his thoughts are above our thoughts, his ways are above our ways. We're not going to understand everything. Multiple reasons, but one is that he knows the end from the beginning. So he knows, like I said before, about all things work together for good. He knows how this thing, even the loss of a young child, or even the loss of a young life, or even this tragedy we go through today, he knows how this can work out in the end for our good when we just don't know it.
And
All
we,
right.
just like how you shared with my mother-in-law, my mom,
Mm-hmm.
that we didn't know this would, her life and her legacy would birth not only our company that we have had for the past 26 years, helping, I mean, hundreds of thousands, in the probably millions of families at this point over the years, past 26 years. We had no idea how the Lord would work that, but it's worked together for not only our good, but for the good and benefit of others as well. So we don't know. We sometimes just have to walk the journey. And you know what? In asking the why, that doesn't mean that the answer may come then. It may come years later and we're like, okay, okay, now I understand.
Yeah. And it may never come.
Yeah, and it may never come. And we have to be okay with that.
In this life, too.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to keep answering questions, but I'm just saying for the rest of you, so you understand. So there's still quite a few of you are on. So when we're here, we're just answering questions. You just hearing us like just, we're just here. Just so we may go a little longer with some because you're here to hear some answers. So so the other thing I would say, because I want to tell a short thing as well too. So remember when my father was at our house, when we stayed with us for the last 3 months of his life, didn't know it was going to be the last 3 months of his life, but we were praying for his healing at that time because he wasn't, doing so well. And it's like an amazing story to me, but we were praying for his healing. And there was times that he couldn't physically walk sometimes. Sometimes I had to carry him. Sometimes I had to, do some things. So at points he couldn't walk. And we were praying for him to be able to, move freely and things like that. And he actually transitioned early in the morning. So some of my older boys were awake with him and you were awake with him. But my 2 youngest boys, they were still sleeping. They had no idea that he had died. And my second to youngest son, he woke up, and before we even told him that, grandfather had died, he was telling you about a dream that he had that my father was running and smiling, and he saw him maybe in heaven. He just saw him happy and running and smiling. And again, he didn't know that his grandfather had died. But when I heard the story, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Because we prayed for his healing and
for him to be able to walk.
And it didn't happen as we were thinking of it, for him to walk here. But my son's dream showed us that he was actually able to do that. So the answer to the prayer didn't come from the way we thought, but there was an answer to the prayer.
Yeah.
Right. And he was healed. So I just say that because the part about why, a lot of times we don't see it. We don't know all that God knows. So we have to be willing to accept that, we can ask him why, but if he don't give us an answer, just know he's still doing what he has to do, and it's going to be better for us in the long run.
Yeah.
All right. We still have to trust in him with our heart, lean on to our understanding, in all ways acknowledge him, and he will direct our path. So yes, you can ask why, but also trust whatever answer that you may or may not get at that moment. Jack said, I respect others' grief, but I don't receive that. Then what? So when others don't receive, okay.
Yeah.
I can answer this real quick.
Go ahead.
I mean, so the golden rule to me, Matthew 7:12, it says, whatsoever ye would that men should do unto you, do ye even so unto them. For this is the law and the prophets. All right. So we don't treat others the way that they treat us. We treat others the way that we want them to treat us. This is what we're supposed to do. All right. And that's just the way it is. Because people won't always treat us the right way, but that doesn't mean we turn around and don't treat them right either. And I don't, that's not what you're saying, but it answers the question in the same way. You still respect others, and you still treat people right.
Yeah.
regardless of what they do. I mean, and the reason why we can do it, the reason that we should be able to do it, when we look at what Jesus did, they treated him terribly. But what did he do? He still went beyond and died for each and every one of us. So, you still respect others' grief, and because I'll just add this last part on too, and it's just from again, you guys is here, you guys are here. We don't do things for the reward of other people.
Yeah.
We do things because the Lord sees us doing it. All right. So whether they acknowledge that you respect them in their grief, or that you treat them, that's good, but we want to do what the Lord wants us to do. All right.
So it's good that you're respecting others' grief. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Continue to do that. Okay. Miranda said, I agree on that statement, Gilmore. After I had my last miscarriage, I felt that way because I had lost 8.
Yeah.
She had lost 8. Yeah. So with that, the young lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this, it's not that we understand everything. We don't understand everything. We don't understand everything, in marriage and in life. We don't understand everything. There's a scripture that I turn to as well in Hebrews. It's talking about Jesus, says that learned he obedience from the things that he suffered. All right. So we go through a lot of suffering, and people get held up on, like, why do we have to go through the suffering? Why do we have to go through this? Why do we go through this grief? Why do we go through this loss? And we get held up on why do we have to experience this? And I just look at that scripture in Hebrews where it says that even Jesus, Yeshua, learned something through his suffering. So there was a reason for what he considered even suffering. And it's the same thing for us. We may not understand it at the time. We may not see it at the time, but there's something that we can even learn from it. We call it growing through grief. Even though we go through grief, there's something that we can grow, that can develop us, that can position us, that can actually instill in us some lessons that will make us become the people that we need to become, so that we can do what the Lord needs to do through us. Okay. So even when we go through these hard times with grief and devastation and loss, just as Jesus learned something through his suffering, there's things that we can extract and grow from, and then be able to eventually even help other people as well too.
And it's not always easy to see at all in that present time, and the feelings and things that we have.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Gilma says, you mentioned anger. How did you come to letting it go? I think I mentioned, well, there's 2 things I said. Well, with my mom was one. It was more of using that to do something constructive, I would say, in reference to starting business. But then also the journaling too. I journaled with my dad, but I think that's also very beneficial. I found people that found great benefit from journaling to get their thoughts together and things like that. Okay. So journaling, I know you kind of spoke again how we do journaling, but that's something. And if you hang around and come into Facebook group and things like that, we'll talk more about the journaling aspect as well. Jack says, how do you put a puzzle back together if you don't have all the pieces? Okay. So
start with what you have.
Okay.
Jacqueline.
And then we give.
Go ahead.
Well, it's just like I think Grace had brought up the other day as well too, right? Well, remember the scripture she shared? All right, with Paul, right? He was, he went through suffering as well too, and he wants the Lord to remove this suffering that he had, and he said that my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in your missing pieces of your puzzle. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. All right. So I just replaced that part with what you said right here. So when we have a puzzle piece that we don't have all the pieces, that's when we rely on the Lord, and his strength is made perfect in our missing pieces. That's when that's when we actually. So this is like we teaching right now too. But this is actually when we're actually stronger, when we are not counting on our own strength, not when we have all the pieces ourselves, we can put it all together. When we realize, whether it's through repentance and through acknowledging that we've sinned, when we realize that we are a puzzle with missing pieces, that's when we allow the Lord to be our savior and to fill those pieces and be our strength. Okay. So none of us, in reality, none of us are a puzzle with all the pieces. All right. And when we recognize that and we'll allow the Lord to be our savior, because we realize we don't have it all together ourselves, his strength will be made perfect in our puzzle that's missing pieces.
Yeah, because sometimes even as we're, in grief, we may feel that loss. We may feel like even certain things are misplaced, or because so much of a shift and change is happening. One thing is faith has a great way sometimes of helping us to kind of put some things back into perspective, not kind of, but to put things back into perspective, or to kind of help to fill some of those things where we may feel some void, may feel some of those losses where we may have those questions. Faith is a, I'd almost kind of say almost like a glue, but even as my husband was talking about, the Lord has a way of, his strength is what helps us to navigate some of these things that just don't feel like they fit together anymore in our lives. And just like I said, just start there, start with where you are and with what you have. And we're happy to walk alongside you to help you to kind of, like I said, navigate those spaces. And the one way we know how to do that is also through sharing faith.
Mm-hmm. All right, Miranda says, it's still hard, but praying now, trying to change. Okay. All right, so praying, absolutely, having a conversation with the Father.
Yeah.
Recognize he's still there for all of us, and we just have to speak to him. He's near to the brokenhearted. That's the scripture,
he's
right?
near to the brokenhearted, and he saves those who are crushed
in spirit.
So he's not left us in that space of grief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gilman says, I wonder how Mary must have felt watching Jesus on the cross. And that's actually this week as we celebrate Resurrection Sunday, right? And Good Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
as a mother, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With her son.
Yeah. But then what did Jesus say to her? Right? He spoke to her.
Yeah.
Look at John. Right, go
ahead. He comforted his mother in saying that, you're still here. And he says he had John, because it says the disciple whom he loved, and that also always pointed to John. And he says, Mother, while he was on the cross, he said, Mother, behold your son. And so I believe he flipped the side also, son, behold thy mother. In other words, he made sure, number one, that his mother knew that she still had someone there with her.
Yeah.
And
we could take that as a lesson too. I mean, like, our loved ones still want us to be okay.
Yes.
We love them enough to grieve them, and they love us enough that they still want us to be okay and to live, because they would. All right. Sandra says, I lost all grandparents, parents, siblings, and husband, but nothing compares to losing a child. As you get older, you expect to lose grandparents and parents, but losing a child is just not the same. My grief is such, I know it will never ease. Okay. So, Sandra, thank you for even like sharing and your honesty. And I think the first time I've seen you typing here, but thank you for even being open and find this space that is a safe space to talk and to share what you're saying. And you went through a significant amount of losses, and
yes, each loss is going to feel extremely different and based on relationship and how you want, for you specifically, even as we talk about grief is so individual, it's so unique. For you specifically, the weight of losing a child felt so much greater than that, as you said, of your grandpa. It's almost like you said you expect it. Um, uh, you know, and for you specifically, that losing a child was a greater weight, and that's exactly where you are right now and how you are to process your grief.
Mm-hmm.
If seeing, even as my husband talked about before too, just seeing exactly how is that affecting you specifically. How is losing your child different for you than losing maybe your siblings and so on? And that's based on, that's a child that came from you. It's different, yes, with your husband, different from a sibling, different from a parent, but that's individual to you. While someone, on the other hand, may say that losing a grandparent might feel different, a parent, a sibling, husband, and so on.
So we just
However,
recognize that all
grief
is devastating.
is devastating,
Absolutely.
depending on, you have your
Yeah.
relationship, unique relationship
Mm-hmm.
with whoever. Yeah.
Yeah. And from even as you shared, you've had so many multiple losses that have built up as well
Yeah.
too, and
Mhm.
you have to take that into account of how each one of them are affecting you combined together, because it's not like just you're not just dealing with one anymore. It's like you're dealing with
Yeah,
five, six, or
multiple
seven,
layers. Yeah.
multiple different ones all working together. So
Wow.
still, if you can, just take the questions to reflect on it. Just to see for yourself again. At the very least, that you guys have these questions that you can use it to reflect, and if you come back again and kind of we can take a little bit further with it, but use that question to kind of start to even maybe, I don't even say unravel yet because there's so many losses, but just see where you are right now presently, in spite of these multiple losses that you have. How is it all impacting you? And then start to take some steps to moving forward. But thank you for saying, Sandra. And Miranda, she's there with you. Okay, see.
Yeah.
So and that's
It's
why we have
true.
a space that we have other people that have gone through loss. None of us are in here by ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Wow, Sandra. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, like you said too, and it's different. It's a suicide in that case as well too. So it's
Yeah.
and then yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Um.
And that's where we see, not yeah, different levels of grief, same
Mhm.
based on situation. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So then we're coming down to
Yeah. I
okay.
think.
So Gilman says unresolved issues. What if I have regrets? Okay.
I
So
think we talked.
yeah. So I think we spoke about regrets
Yeah.
as well too. You know, regrets of what you could do or couldn't do any or can't do anymore. Um, I mean, a lot of these comes. So our 4Ds, the Lord's given to us for this program, 4Ds, is it's it's a framework that really helps throughout much of these different things that come up as a result of our grief, whether it's the um, regrets or the anger or the guilt or unforgiveness and things like it's still finding out like how is this impacting you right now, and you know then taking some steps to go forward with it. So um, we're still all these things we're still saying to encourage everyone to kind of take this first step,
Yeah.
right? Because going back to what I said at the more or less end of the presentation, you can leave here and do nothing and nothing changes, or you can just take a step, and that first step we've kind of given you the tool to do some of that first step, which is the assessment.
Yeah.
All right. So if you just take that first step and look on it, reflect on it, and if you can't do all of it right away, just take your time with it, come back again, and then once you're ready and you're taking that, you finished it, then you come on to our journey sessions like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Food can also be a drug, absolutely.
Yes.
All right, comfort foods. I talked about that. I didn't talk about today, but comfort foods. We see how foods can bring comfort, but most of the comfort foods is just not good for us. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mark said the thing with widow's fire is that it ends after a few months by itself. Connection, as you said, is correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing with that, Mark, and thank you for glad you came back on. You still the widow's fires,
Yeah.
but the it ends after a few months. You know, it's similar to like as you related to like drinking alcohol or drugs. They're all different ways to numb the pain that we're feeling, yet they can actually hurt us in other ways. Okay, so same thing like drinking alcohol, drugs, also with the widow's fires you said too. It might it could say it ends in 6 months or what have you, but during that 6 months, there's a lot of things that can go wrong during that 6 months, and it can, um, you know, so it's definitely still like we said
Just be mindful.
about connection.
Yeah. Connection.
You know, having the right
That's
connections.
the root.
Yeah, and we want to be a form of connection as far as community, that we can be a connection and talk about. I mean, talk about things like this. Like um, like we've had a men's grief
Yeah.
group session where we talked even about, you know, we talked more freely.
He and the
men.
guys.
Yeah,
He and the
it
guys.
was-
Not me. I wasn't there.
yeah, so I had one
Yeah.
with just men, and then
Men
we talked a
alone,
little more
yeah.
freely with some stuff as well too. Um, but yeah, it's still about the connection. So what we want to be is a source, at least one source of connection in our group. Now this goes to what you're saying, Mark, but also to other people who have, like, let's say they have a family and they say their family is not, um, they don't have the emotional support. They have disconnect in other areas. They're whatever, whoever else that they feel lacking support from. If you have the support of a group, like let's say Grief to Life, we have our community here. If you have the support of a group, then it actually helps you in the other groups that you have to deal with. It's not that every group has to be supportive of you as a group, as a person that is grieving, but if you have a place where you can come to and be honest and share with and talk to, and get some encouragement, then now when you go back to your job, you may not get support from them and that, but you know that you have some support somewhere else, so you can function better at your job because you're not looking to them for the support for your grief. Even some churches, and we do this program at churches, and we look to do that at more churches. But the reality is that a lot of churches don't have a grief program there, and they're not always as supportive as what people may be looking for from the church. So even if you have a supportive community like with us here, then when you go to church, it's not necessarily looking for the grief support in that regards, but you're getting your spiritual nourishment, or you're getting, the other support. So you need a space to get supported and encouraged in your grief. It's not that every space needs to be it, but if you have one space, then it can help in the other areas that may not provide it, but now you're not looking for them to provide it either. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like going to McDonald's for pizza. Well, no, I'm just going on. But yeah.
It's just going off.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good job, Michelle. Yes, I think when we read Michelle's thing, that was great, Michelle.
Yeah.
Go back to school, right?
Yeah.
Gilma, I'm a female. Okay. Oh, Mark. Okay, Mark.
Marcy,
Well, thank you.
We're sorry about that, because I'm used to seeing Mark.
Okay. That I lost. So I'm both glad that it happened and yet disappointed in myself for doing it. Now I crave a close hug, but I realize that it's not appropriate. Okay.
Yes.
All right. No, thank you for sharing. But that's great. I'm glad you brought it up as well too. So okay. And I'm glad that you are at the point that you are right now, that you can look back and you can say, okay, it's the closeness and just being able to
just understanding the root of what you were looking for, and now you can move forward. And
yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you, Marcy. There we go. Okay. Louise, thank you for being here, all of you. Okay, so we went through the questions. I think all the questions is in there. I'm just gonna look through the chat, but gotta go. Gilma, thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy that you are Christian. Thank you. I know God is pleased with your love for his children. Oh, thank you, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Jackie, I think you could. So any of you, like if you post on Facebook and you see a response from myself or my wife, usually she does under my name too. So it could be either one of us. Or if you email back to any emails you got from us, it'll be myself and my wife that's going to respond to you. All right. Stanley was on to. Okay, great.
Different Stania.
No, I think that's Daniel.
No,
Maybe.
I saw the last name before. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think we have okay. I'm turn your pain into purpose. All right.
Yes.
Great. Let me put this link in, and I think hopefully you guys have got it before. The next steps. So on the next steps, you get the Facebook group on there. All right. If you click on that link, you should see the Facebook group at the top that you'll be able to join. Then if you want to join the recurring Grief to Life journey sessions, and then if you want to support the ministry, you can buy a book or you can just donate. Again, that's if you are able to. I put that there so you can do, but definitely join the Facebook group. That's the first step.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think we got through all of the questions.
Yes, I believe so, because I think people are transferring it. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So they put it in. All these are questions here. But
All
thank you guys all for being here.
Thank you for hanging tough with us. I know it was quite a while, but we just wanted to make sure that we got the questions together. But thank you guys again for trusting us to just walk through this with you and allowing some space for us to honor your loved ones with you by helping you to not forget them, but to honor them better through your living, through your purpose. I know it's not hard. I know it's not easy. It is quite hard to walk through this journey, especially way down with so many different emotions. But again, as we said, grief shared is grief divided. So any way that we can help to just facilitate any healing, we're here for it. We're here to support you in any way. But thank you again for being on with us today.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna play the video one more time, and then we are going to end.
All right. Have a great evening.
Yeah. The next time we'll give you we'll put the dates up for the next time. So if you want to come back to this one, you just go to grieftolife.com. That'll be the one-day webinar we do it. That might be. We'll know by tomorrow. It might be in 2 weeks from now. Okay.
All right.
Grief can feel overwhelming, but you're not alone. Grief to Life coaching helps you grow through grief, not just go through it. We guide you from heartbreak to healing, from loss to life. When we experience deep loss, the emotions don't always make sense. Grief can show up as anger, sudden, sharp, and unexpected. It can bring anxiety, fear of what's next. And often, there's guilt about what we did or didn't do. These all are natural, but they don't have to define us. Here are 3 truths we hold on to. 1, grief doesn't have to last forever. Healing is possible. 2, grief shared is grief divided. Talking helps. And 3, it's okay to not be okay, but don't stay not okay. There's life after loss, and we're here to help you find it. Grief to Life coaching is for those who are hurting, for those who've lost a loved one and feel stuck. For anyone searching for healing. For people who want support but don't know where to start. And for those looking for direction in a life that suddenly feels off course. Our coaching helps you rediscover your identity. You don't have to stay stuck in sorrow. Let us help you move from grief to life. Visit www.grieftolife.com.